What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 5 Chains 121 Kizaru's departure. Kizaru nodded in surprise when he saw Char easily block the attack, as if he recognized Char's strength. Char turned around and opened his hands to release more powerful poisonous dragons. When these poisonous dragons accidentally touched the board was instantly melted like a candle. The pirates and captains couldn't help trembling when they saw this scene, and subconsciously stepped back a few steps for fear that the fierce battle between them would involve themselves. The captain was even more distressed when he saw his ship being destroyed. Go! Char continued to whisper. The poisonous dragons attacked Kizaru again with amazing momentum, and everything that passed by was melted, and everything that touched the poisonous dragons was completely melted, melting without leaving any trace. Kizaru's pupils shrank, and his skin could feel the terrifying breath emitted by these terrible poisonous dragons, and his face suddenly became gloomy. After seeing the power of poisonous dragons, Kizaru decided that he could not confront them head-on, so he flashed and disappeared again. The next moment, his figure appeared above Char, and after accumulating photons on his right leg, he kicked out at the speed of light, and a light speed kick rushed straight towards Char, who was still standing there. Char didn't seem to react, and just used this attack. With an explosion, a fierce explosion occurred where Char was, raising endless smoke. Kizaru flashed an inexplicable light, and his sharp eyes were locked on the place where Char was. Did you succeed? At this time, not only Kizaru was concerned about whether Char was defeated, but the pirates were also concerned about Char's life. They were all staring at Char's location nervously. They knew very well that if Char died, not to mention the Marine Vice Admiral, Kizaru would definitely not let them go. As time passed, the smoke slowly dissipated, and Char stood there quietly as if nothing had happened, with excitement in his eyes that he could not hide. He clenched his fists tightly. Although he was accidentally kicked by Kizaru, he was excited for some reason. This is Kizaru. A normal person would be greatly shocked if he had received such a thunderous blow, but Char was not like this. Instead of showing fear, he showed excitement. His fighting spirit was not frustrated but even more so. Kizaru couldn't help but have a headache when he saw Char still acting as if nothing had happened, and he groaned in annoyance. He had seen such eyes many times. Advertisement, another weirdo, tisk, so troublesome. Just as Kizaru sighed in his heart, Char, who was not far away, suddenly underwent a huge change. Venom continued to flow out of his body, and then the venom attached to his skin like a pair of extremely solid armor. Every step Char took would inevitably cause the venom to splash violently, and a large amount of white smoke began to continuously emerge from his body, exuding a terrifying momentum that no mortal could approach. Let's make a break, Huang, Yuan. Kizaru suddenly had an ominous premonition, gritted his teeth and used his strongest light speed kick with all his strength. Char snorted coldly and blocked Kizaru's light speed kick head on without blocking or dodging. Kizaru's pupils dilated instantly, and before he could fully react, Char quickly closed the distance between him and him at a gust of wind speed and then punched him. Char's fist with poisonous armor hit Kizaru, who immediately turned in the air and fell to the bow. Everyone was stunned by this sudden change, so much so that they stayed there for a long time without saying a word. Hiram, who was not far away, showed an incredible look with incredible light in his eyes. The pirates from the next door pirate group couldn't help but open their mouths when they saw this scene, and talked in a low voice, pointing at Char and Kizaru. Hey, that Kizaru was blown away. Oh my god, tell me, this is not true. This is really shocking. Everyone present couldn't imagine that there would be such a scene in front of them. Obviously, Char was hit by Kizaru before, but now it was reversed and Kizaru was injured. This was simply unimaginable. Kizaru propped up his exhausted body and stood up with his shaky body, gracefully used his arms to hold up the electric steam venom that was melting his face. Advertisement, oh my, this venom is really amazing. Kizaru exclaimed in admiration, with a bright smile on his face, but the cold murderous intent in his eyes was seriously inconsistent with his expression. To be honest, Kizaru was really scared by Char's punch. The point is not how strong Char's poison fruit is, but the point is that the Haki of Armament color attached to Char's fist is too powerful, because Kizaru, who has been hit head-on, knows very well how powerful Char's punch is. Char's Haki may be stronger than his, Kizaru muttered to himself. At this time, Char showed a ghostly look, clenched his fists tightly, and said in an excited tone, "Come on, Kizaru, today is your death day." Kizaru's mouth corners slightly raised, and he was about to accept Char's provocation and use his strongest move to date, Yasukani no Magatama. A large number of light balls were gathering in his right leg and were about to hit Char. In this tense atmosphere, an untimely voice sounded, and the sound came from Kizaru's arms. Therefore, everyone's expressions became a little strange. Char sighed lightly, and the endless fighting spirit in his heart was suddenly dispersed by the sudden ringing of the Den Mushi. Kizaru said, "Huh?" After answering the phone. "Ma Jiao Jiao," an angry voice sounded in his ears. "Hey, Kizaru, where are you running to? Why don't you hurry back to Marineford?" The owner of this voice is Sengoku, the highest commander of the current naval headquarters. Kizaru put away his serious expression and smiled brightly. "I'm catching Sonya now." "Don't worry about it, come back quickly, Ace's execution day will be in a few days. Sengoku's cold voice sounded again. After a few seconds, the Den Mushi could no longer make a sound. Kizaru said to Char as if nothing had happened, "Ah, did you see that? That's why I can't fight you. See you again if we're lucky." As soon as he finished speaking, Kizaru took Hiram away without giving Char and the others a chance to react. Char's face changed, and a substance similar to poisonous smoke immediately emerged from his body, which turned into a poisonous dragon in the air. 122 to Sabody Archipelago. He rushed towards Kizaru with amazing momentum, but it was too late. Kizaru's figure immediately disappeared from the world, and the poisonous dragon was empty. Damn it. Left behind was Char, with veins on his forehead bulging and stamping his feet. I thought I could fight Kizaru here and get the coveted sparkling fruit from him, but Kizaru withdrew because of Sengoku. Damn it. According to the news from Sengoku before Kizaru left, I'm afraid Kizaru is going to Marineford to guard it. After all, Marine will soon execute Ace and face Whitebeard head-on. Wait, if that's the case, according to the original content of One Piece, Kizaru is likely to appear in Sabody Archipelago next. Thinking of this, Char suppressed his resentment and shouted at the captain. Go to Sabody Archipelago. The excited Char seemed to have forgotten to put away his poisonous ability, and the venom that kept coming out of his body kept flowing quietly on the board, even melting a hole. The captain was frightened by the angry Char, and it took a while for him to recover. He smiled and asked humbly, "Why do we have to go to Sabody Archipelago?" The pirates around were also frightened by the monstrous anger of Char. Seeing such an excited Char, they couldn't help but think of the terrible fighting power that Char had just erupted, so they couldn't help but shudder. Sha Ya snorted coldly and cast his eyes on the sea. No one knew what he was thinking. After a while, he said calmly, "I'm going to Sabody Archipelago to find someone, okay? By the way, get there within 2 days, and the time must be fast." The captain lowered his head and laughed. Of course, but the distance between here and the archipelago in Sabody is very far. If you really want to get there, it will probably take a week. I don't care about you so much, anyway, get there within 2 days, otherwise. Sha Ya grabbed the captain's collar roughly, ignoring the obvious panic on his face, and said in a slightly threatening tone. After feeling Sha Ya's cold murderous aura, the captain couldn't help but shudder again and begged for mercy. Okay, I know. Sha Ya then let go of his hand, randomly found 10 places and lay quietly on the ground to rest. The captain gnashed his teeth and arranged for the ship to speed up. Now he could only follow Char's orders to carry out the mission. The pirate instinct told him that Char was not joking. Maybe Char would really kill him. Thinking of this, the captain panicked even more and urged the crew to speed up the ship again, fearing that their crew would not take his order seriously. In fact, the captain did not do this. His crew would also do this seriously, because they just saw Char's terrifying strength. He could fight Kizaru one-on-one without losing. What a terrible strength. In their eyes, this Char who got angry at every turn was like an ancient beast. Therefore, the crew on the board did not immediately repair the damage to the board caused by Kizaru and Char, but immediately followed the captain's order to speed up the ship seriously. Everyone put in 120% of their energy to do this, fearing that they would not reach the destination on time and cause Char to be furious and kill them. F*K. This ship is so slow, please speed up. What's going on? Why is this ship so slow? Damn. Hey, this speed is really slow, I'm afraid we won't get there in 3 days. Is there any way to speed it up? I suddenly feel that this ship is so slow. If it continues like this, we will definitely die here. No, is my pirate career over? The crew members suddenly complained about the pirate ship they always admired for its speed. In the eyes of ordinary people, this pirate ship was fast enough, but in their eyes, the speed of this ship was like an old turtle crawling slowly. Later at night, the pirates seemed to have completely ignored the serious lack of food on the ship, and forced all the food out in one breath just to make Char happy. Looking at so many delicious foods on the table, Char didn't want to eat at all. Because of the poison fruit, he can only eat some food that contains poison. Otherwise, he has no appetite for other food, no matter how delicious and tempting the food is. Advertisement in the previous month, Char had no choice but to find some poisonous food to swallow. In this month, Char suddenly felt that his whole life had changed drastically. This is F***G terrible. This poison fruit is really a rip-off. Char couldn't help but think of changing the power of the poison fruit. Although the power of this poison fruit is powerful, it will bring him some necessary troubles, which Char dislikes the most. This is troublesome, a fruit that is more powerful than the power of the poison fruit, and it is convenient. Char put his hand on his chin and fell into deep thought. Seeing that Char didn't speak for a long time, the pirates thought that Char was not satisfied with the food. Suddenly, their faces became gloomy, and their eyes were once again filled with shrouded in fear. Will this Char kill them now? The pirates suddenly choked, and an unprecedented solemn atmosphere spread throughout the venue. Everyone was nervously watching Char, praying that Char would not kill them in a fit of anger. Char seemed to have noticed the surprised reactions of the pirates, and smiled and said, "It's okay, it's the problem of my fruit ability, you can eat it first." As soon as the voice fell, he left in a chic manner. At this time, Char did not have the violent mood of causing trouble for others at every turn, but a gentle mood, which made the pirates feel doubtful about life. If someone who didn't know Char was here, they would probably think that Char was a nobleman. In the night sky, Char quietly leaned against the railing of the ship, raised his head and looked at the moon hanging in the sky, with a thoughtful look on his face. I don't know what he was thinking. At this time, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind: Kizaru's amazing speed and sharp power. Sparkling fruit? As if he had made up his mind, Char snorted and closed his eyes to rest. One day later, on the beautiful Sabody archipelago, a group of people disembarked from a pirate ship that looked ordinary in every way. They surrounded a person, as if this person was of noble status and was a big shot from there.
Lord Char, take care. I wish you good luck in martial arts. Long live Lord Char. 123 Straw Hat Pirates. Facing the enthusiasm of the pirates, Char didn't know whether to laugh or cry.
Char seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and waved to the captain, saying, "Come here." The captain was startled by his name, and couldn't help swallowing his saliva and trotting over. Fearing that he would be attacked by Char, he trembled and said, "Lord Char, what's the matter?" Char took out a fruit with the word, "Iron Ball," written on it from his arms with a smile, handed it to the captain, and said with a smile, "This fruit will be your hard work fee." As soon as these words came out, everyone took a deep breath, and the words, "Surprise," were written on their faces. The captain seemed to have obtained some rare treasure. Holding the Iron Ball fruit, his voice was still trembling, saying, "Lord Char, is this fruit really given to me? You're not playing, are you?" I can't afford it." Char, 073, waved his sleeves and said calmly, "When have I ever lied? Come on, eat it quickly." The captain wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and slowly swallowed the Iron Ball fruit with a fearful look. After seeing the captain swallow the fruit, Char smiled with satisfaction and said, "By the way, before I leave, I want to ask you, what is your name?" Char was very grateful to the pirate group and the captain. After all, the former almost racked his brains and used up all his resources for him. How could Char, who valued friendship, not treat him well? So this is also the fundamental reason why Char gave him the precious Iron Ball fruit. The captain clearly felt the surging power in his body and cast a grateful look at Char. After hearing Char's words, his face suddenly turned into a bitter face. "You still don't know my name until now." The captain wiped the cold sweat again and said, "My name is Nar." Char said, "Oh, Nar, I'll remember this name. Develop your own power. If you encounter any trouble in the future, just report my name. I believe we will meet again one day. Bye." As soon as the voice fell, Char's figure disappeared. It seemed that he left here. Captain Nar swallowed the words of gratitude that he had not yet said as Char left, and the crew behind him sighed. Captain Nar clenched his fists tightly, and he vowed to remember the name of Char deeply in his mind. Because Nar was too angry, he accidentally used the Iron Ball fruit he had just obtained, and his hands suddenly turned into iron balls, causing an uproar. Char certainly didn't know what Nar and others were thinking at this time. What he had to do now was to see if Straw Hat Luffy had come to Sabody archipelago. In the original work of One Piece, a while before Ace was executed, Straw Hat Luffy beat celestial dragons in Sabody Islands. It was because of this incident that the Straw Hat pirates dispersed. The indirect cause of all this was none other than Kizaru, who had just fought him fiercely. At first, from outside the Sabody Islands, it was impossible to see the tragic scene inside, but now Char could clearly see it. The originally sturdy trees have now fallen, blood is splattered everywhere, and even the trees are covered with blood. The shocking corpses on the ground make people feel cold, and this place has completely turned into a sea of blood. It is obvious that fierce battles have just broken out here. The veins on Char's forehead are bulging, and his expressionless face is slightly angry. He murmured in a low voice, "Are you late?" Just when Char was disappointed, a yellow flash suddenly flashed not far away, as if silently declaring that the war is not over yet. Seeing this scene, Char's pupils shrank, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. The next moment, his speed was as fast as possible, and he flew to the place where the yellow flash occurred. After a while, Char's figure fell where the yellow flash appeared. After the familiar faces entered Char's field of vision, his expression instantly became strange. The anxious Straw Hat pirates, and Kizaru and Zontaomaru who were chasing Luffy relentlessly. And the familiar Straw Hat advertisement. Seeing this scene, Char shed tears for some reason. So strange, why am I crying? As a fan of the original One Piece, when he saw the protagonist Luffy and others, even though Char had experienced so many ups and downs, even though he had transformed into a peerless strongman, even though he had seen this scene so many times and knew the ending, he still couldn't help but shed tears. "Finally I see you guys." Char wiped his tears gently and cast a very complicated look at Luffy and others not far away. Luffy and others were startled by Char's sudden intrusion and their steps paused slightly. Kizaru, who was about to kick Zoro, clearly sensed Char's breath, and his calm and relaxed face suddenly changed. He suddenly withdrew his attack and stepped back a few steps, looking at Char with some fear. It took Char only a moment to recover. Endless killing intent surged from his body, and his fists clenched and cracked. He was ready to fight Kizaru to the death here to finish the battle that had not yet ended. At this time, Char knew very well that in the original work, Rayleigh would rescue Zoro at this time, but he didn't know if it was because of his problem that Rayleigh didn't take action. Because of Char's appearance, the original plot did not proceed, but the result was still the same as the original work. Zoro was still rescued by Usopp. It was also because of this that Zoro, who was originally in danger, was able to survive. What Char didn't know was that everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates now had a good impression of him because of his amazing appearance. However, except for the idiot Luffy, they had a strong question in their hearts. Who is this person, and why can Kizaru be so shaken? Nico Robin, who had a wide range of experience, was not as confused as others. Suddenly, a light flashed in her eyes, and a familiar name appeared in her mind. Poison Dragon Char. No matter what, Kizaru, I must defeat him and take his flash fruit. Under the surprised gaze of the Straw Hat Pirates, Char took a step forward with determination, and the next moment, the powerful armament Haki took effect, and his whole body became steel. Kizaru saw Char's posture and knew that Char had decided to fight him seriously. Kizaru scratched his head, grinned, and blurted out his favorite phrase, "How scary." Then Char looked around, his eyes swept over Luffy and others, and then said seriously without any panic, "Straw Hat Pirates, you go first, I will hold them here." 124 Luffy. Char's words were like the ironclad facts spoken by a knight who had sworn a vow, which made everyone slightly absent-minded, and Luffy's eyes lit up. Kizaru narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Oh, just you?" Char licked his lips with some excitement, and said in an excited tone, "Kizaru, are you ready?" Kizaru chuckled, gathered the amazing light on his right leg, and was about to move forward. In this tense atmosphere, an untimely voice of worry sounded. Luffy scratched his head and smiled foolishly. "Well, although I don't know who you are, I am very grateful to you." Char was immediately moved, and an unprecedented emotion surged in his heart. Char swallowed his saliva, resisted the emotion of his idol in his heart, and decided to help Luffy and others again. He looked serious and said something incredible. "Just now I saw the Shichibukai bear over there, you should be more careful." As soon as these words came out, the Straw Hat Pirates were shocked and took a deep breath. Kizaru frowned, and an inexplicable light flashed in his eyes. Nami's beautiful eyes were fixed on the person who looked like Shichibukai Tyrant Bear standing quietly beside Zontaomaru in the distance. She covered her mouth and said, "Are you kidding? If that's the case, then who is this person?" Char didn't care about Kizaru, who was ignored at one side. He turned his head to Nami and said seriously, "This is a man-made man, a unique weapon of marine. There are many bears like this, but these are all made based on the prototype of Shichibukai Bear Tyrant. They are not as strong as the original one, and their combat effectiveness is limited." The Straw Hat Pirates were filled with shock in their hearts, and their eyes showed incredible colors. They shouldn't believe such a ridiculous thing, but they are different from other pirates. They have met the real Shichibukai bear, so they are familiar with the real bear. Zoro, who had been suspicious of the bear in front of him, showed an unexpected expression and nodded as if he understood. Hey, don't ignore my existence." Kizaru seemed to want to highlight his existence, and seemed to intend to sneak attack Char, who was serious, and used the speed of light kick. An overwhelming attack that could be felt from the skin rushed straight towards Char. Char's face did not change. After calmly dodging the attack, as if nothing had happened, he ignored the shocked eyes of the crowd and continued in a shocking tone. "Well, Rayleigh, don't you want to come out for a while?" Advertisement. As soon as the voice fell, a man with long curly hair and a beard on his chin stepped out from the darkness not far away, staring at Char with an extremely surprised look. And smiled. "How did you know my existence, Poison Dragon Char?" Rayleigh paused and revealed Char's identity in one sentence. The Straw Hat Pirates, who didn't know Char's background, looked confused, while Nico Robin, who was not far away, looked as expected. This man was indeed the legendary poisonous dragon Char who defeated Magellan and caused a big disturbance in Impel Down. After his identity was revealed, Char sighed softly and said in a low voice without caring at all, "Don't worry about this issue. Just go and protect the Straw Hat Pirates and others. I'll pay you here." Before everyone could react, a shockwave came towards the Straw Hat Pirates. The Straw Hat Pirates dodged this fatal blow amidst panicked cries. The next moment, a tall figure fell from the sky. This person was the real Shichibukai Tyrant Bear. When Zoro saw the arrival of the real bear, a murderous look immediately appeared in his eyes. He would not mistake this feeling. This guy was undoubtedly the real bear. As a result, things really developed as Char said. Everyone looked at Char with a little admiration, and at the same time, they wondered if Char had any special ability to predict the future. Looking at Char, who was standing there like a stone statue, he smiled and reminded, "Then you should run quickly. Kizaru will pass through me to mess with you." Everyone woke up and ran towards the bay with all their strength. As for Zoro, who was exhausted, he was carried on Usopp's back and ran. Rayleigh also moved, but the last look he cast on Char was a little strange. Luffy waved his arms and showed his signature smile, saying, "Char, we'll meet again." Char nodded with a smile, lowered his voice and said in a voice that only he could speak, "See you at Marineford." Advertisement. I won't let you go, Straw Hat. As soon as Zontaomaru finished speaking, his entire huge body bounced out like a spring and rushed towards the Straw Hat Pirates who were running fast. Following behind him was a pacifist who couldn't see any emotion, and the real Shichibukai tyrant bear. Seeing this, Char narrowed his eyes and said, he can't just let Zon Taomaru and the others attack Straw Hat Luffy and the others. 0414122225 Philo 1723202060. The next moment, Char attacked decisively. A poisonous smoke-like existence suddenly appeared on his body, and a ferocious poisonous dragon formed in the air, rushing towards Zon Taomaru with amazing momentum. Zon Taomaru, who had put all his energy into running Luffy and the others, didn't seem to notice the poisonous dragon following behind him. Kizaru's face sank, and he quickly kicked the poisonous dragon to pieces with a light speed kick, and Zon Taomaru was able to continue rushing towards Luffy and the others safely. At the same time, a hint of coldness flashed in Char's eyes. Seeing that his attack was easily resolved by Kizaru, he immediately changed his strategy temporarily. This time, he did not choose to attack Zon Taomaru, who was protected by Kizaru, but directly attacked Kizaru. So the poisonous dragons released again roared towards Kizaru, and the result was still as expected. Kizaru's casual kicks were neutralized. Although he was a little worried about the safety of Luffy and others, he was not worried that he would have to deal with Zon Taomaru. Besides, there was the legendary man Rayleigh next to him, so it would be difficult for Luffy and others to be in danger. Besides, his main target was Kizaru. For various reasons, Char decided to concentrate on dealing with this unprecedented strong enemy. Kizaru was the strongest existence he had ever encountered, and he would never allow him to be careless and distracted. Kizaru stared at Char in front of him with his fiery eyes, and the hair on his back stood up in vain. I will arrest you today. Kizaru, who could no longer bear it, no longer had the usual playful smile on his face, but was replaced by unprecedented anger. The next moment, Kizaru used all his strength, and the terrifying strength at the bottom of the box was finally displayed in front of Char. 125 Kizaru retreats again. Soon after, with the help of the powerful thug Rayleigh and their own extraordinary strength, the Straw Hat Pirates were able to escape the enemy's pursuit even under the attack of Zon Taomaru and his tyrant bear. Zon Taomaru panted and glared at the Straw Hat Pirates who left the Sabody archipelago on the sunny. At this time, he was very unwilling, as if a prey had slipped away in front of him. And Rayleigh didn't know when he started to escape from his sight, which made him even more resentful. What made Zon Taomaru even more angry was that Tyrant Bear, who had several excellent opportunities to attack, stayed quietly in place for a long time waiting for others to react before starting to launch laser attacks. As for his partner Pacifist, he was smashed to pieces by Rayleigh. Seeing the Pacifist completely turned into a pile of waste, Zon Taomaru couldn't help but twitch his facial muscles and felt very distressed. You have to know that the cost of building a pacifist is the cost of a warship. This high price is not something that a big force like Marine can afford. If his father knew that he had destroyed several pacifists, he would criticize him. By the way, how did the old man fight with that Char? Just when he thought of this, a deafening explosion suddenly occurred not far away, which startled Zon Taowen. He turned his head 610 times and looked at the sound. Suddenly, he felt a little uneasy. Is this all your strength, Kizaru? Purple venom continued to flow out of Char's body, and even the road surface was covered with his venom. He was showing a hideous smile to Kizaru, with an undisguised cold light in his eyes. Kizaru's teeth squeaked, and his face was full of fatigue. I didn't expect this Char to be so difficult. After just a while, he was exhausted, and this Char was still very insidious. Before, he was almost attacked by Char's poisonous dragon, and even his sunglasses could not be saved. He was swallowed by the venom without leaving any residue. Kizaru rubbed his forehead with a painful look on his face. He now understood that if he really wanted to fight to the death with Char, even if he could win, he would have to pay a heavy price in the end. If it was in normal times, Huang was willing to sacrifice his own life to fulfill his own justice. But the big event a few days later forced him to think carefully about whether he really wanted to do this, because their Marines were about to face Whitebeard and his powerful pirate group. If he was seriously injured here today, he would not be able to help the Marines fight Whitebeard. Besides, this Char could be killed later. Advertisement. Just as Kizaru was rubbing his chin and thinking, Char's poisonous dragon had roared from behind him without any greeting. So scary. After Kizaru said this with a playful smile, he turned around at the speed of light and kicked away the poisonous dragon that was about to attack him from behind. Seeing that the sneak attack failed, Char snorted coldly. Without giving Kizaru any time to rest or react, several ferocious poisonous dragons emerged from Char's body and rushed straight towards Kizaru. But this time Kizaru did not continue to block Char's attack. Instead, he flashed and disappeared completely, as if Kizaru did not exist in this world. Char opened his eyes wide. Could it be that Kizaru was hiding in the dark, waiting for him to show a flaw and then giving him a fatal blow? Not knowing that Kizaru had already fled, Char remained alert, firing at full power, and countless poisonous dragons roamed around him like spirits. As long as there was an attack, these poisonous dragons would block it for him. But after a long time, Kizaru's figure really did not appear again, and Char suddenly woke up. He now realized that he had been deceived. Damn, that Kizaru, Char couldn't help but muttered resentfully. Just as Char was thinking deeply about why Kizaru retreated without fighting, a light suddenly flashed in his eyes, and a very important piece of news suddenly entered his mind. The summit war in a few days, CFEC. Thinking of this, Char felt that it made sense. In this case, it made sense for Kizaru to withdraw and choose not to fight him. Advertisement if this was true. Char clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes released a cold light. Originally, he must participate in the Summit War in a few days, because it was a great way for him to improve his own strength. In the Summit War, a shocking war, many strong men died here. If Char can make good use of his own resources and turn their Haki and fruits into his own use, there is no doubt that he will become stronger and stronger. But there is another problem. According to the original plot, Luffy was beaten to the daughter island by the bear, and then met the Empress and formed a good relationship. Only then did he persuade the Empress, who did not want to fight. According to the current development, the Straw Hat Pirates are much less in danger than the original. Shichibukai Bear was originally going to help Luffy and others escape. Therefore, if he saw that Luffy and others had a chance to escape, the bear might not really use all his strength to beat them away. In other words, Luffy and others are likely to escape successfully and not be beaten away, that is, they did not follow the original plot. Thinking of this, Char couldn't help but feel a little complicated. Char is determined to be a peerless strong man in this world, so sooner or later he will have a real fight with Luffy and others who have the halo of the protagonist. But now that he has disrupted the plot, it is very likely that Luffy and others will not follow the original route, resulting in some changes in their own strength, perhaps not as explosive as in the original work. Char shook his head. He gave up this complicated problem and thought about what to do next. But how could Char come up with a good plan in a short time? He had to walk anxiously on the spot. It's a bit noisy. Not far from Char, countless screams like slaughtering pigs were heard, which interrupted Char's thinking from time to time. He was about to come up with a great plan, but it was interrupted. Char, who couldn't stand the noise, decided to find a quiet place to think carefully. As soon as he took a step, a flash of inspiration suddenly came to his mind. Wait. Why didn't he strengthen his strength in the next few days? You know, there are many pirates with high bounties in the Sabody group. Those supernovas are probably still on the island. If they are killed here. Action is worse than thought. With anticipation in mind, Char rushed towards the screams that were like a pig being slaughtered that were resounding through the sky. 126 Pacifist. Is this the Shichibukai bear? Damn it, why is it attacking us? Everyone, run, we are no match for him. Is this the strength of the Shichibukai? So strong. The pirates who didn't know the true face of the pacifist met a bear with the same face as the Shichibukai bear and strong strength, which made them naively think that this might be the legendary Shichibukai bear. However, even if it was not one of the Shichibukai bears, these inferior pirates had no chance to fight back in front of the pacifists, and could only quietly accept the slaughter of the pacifists. The pacifist looked at the identity of several pirates with his electronic eyes, and launched a laser attack without hesitation, killing several pirates who were fleeing in a hurry. The pirates who were fleeing around were even more panicked, and killed several colleagues who looked strong with one blow. How could this make them feel sad? It was killed in an instant, my god. This strength is too perverted, it was killed in a second. As terrifying as the Shichibukai bear. This is the strength of the Shichibukai, we have no chance to fight back, what should we do? Close double angle bracket. Retreat, retreat, we are no match for him at all. In front of the pacifist with absolute strength, some pirates even knelt down and begged for mercy. Advertisement, please let us go. I know I was wrong. Please don't kill me. However, they didn't know that the bear in front of them was actually the special force of the Marine, the Imperialism Force, an emotionless killing weapon. The pacifist, who didn't listen to the pirate's explanations at all, opened his mouth wide, and the next moment the laser was about to burst out of his mouth. The shining light was imprinted in their eyes, and the pirates who were targeted by the pacifist were so scared that they couldn't run away, and they looked lost. At this moment, Char suddenly attacked, and several poisonous dragons with terrible auras pierced through the chest of the pacifist in an instant. The pacifist who suffered a fatal blow from Char could only explode miserably on the spot. The pirates who were saved by Char looked at him as if they were looking at a savior, their eyes full of gratitude. They knew very well that if the strange man in front of them had not taken action, they would have been killed by a laser just now, just like the pirates they had watched before. When they were about to say words of thanks and gratitude, Char's actions at the next moment puzzled them. They simply didn't understand why Char did this until they were about to die. Countless poisonous dragons roaming in the sky emerged from Char's body. After a few seconds, these hideous and terrifying poisonous dragons roared towards them. In less than a while, these pirates who had not yet reacted were swallowed up by Char's poisonous dragons. At first, some smart pirates instinctively felt something was wrong, so they ran away. They only lived for a little while, but in the blink of an eye, they were caught up and swallowed by the poisonous dragon. The whole place was filled with the pungent smell of poisonous gas, and the ground was full of corpses vomited out by the dragon after being swallowed. This was all Char's masterpiece. Char's mouth corners slightly raised, with an indescribable joy in his eyes. It was because of the familiar system ringtone that rang in his mind after he killed these pirates just now. Ding ding ding, congratulations on killing a pirate from the Sabody Islands and earning 70,000 points. Ding ding ding, congratulations on killing 10 pirates from the Sabody Islands and earning 700,000 points. Advertisement, ding ding ding, Congratulations on killing 2 pirates from the Sabody Islands and earning 1.4 million points. In less than a minute, Char earned 140 points, which was really a cause for celebration. Facing the corpses all over the ground, Char did not feel guilty for a long time, and stepped on their corpses to go further away. Char believed that no matter whether it was marine or pirate, they had to be prepared to be killed, so it was not too much to be killed at a certain place and time, right? Char's principle was not to kill innocent civilians, and all pirates and marines were his dishes. Not long after, Char encountered countless pirates again, and once again killed them, earning a lot of points. After a while of slaughter, Char's mind was full of questions. He had not encountered any marines along the way, not even a marine soldier. What was going on? Later, Char deliberately captured a celestial dragon and finally learned from him why he had not encountered any marines. It turned out that the marines had already started to retreat partially just now. According to this celestial dragon, the marines in the area where Char was should have retreated. The celestial dragon, who was strangled by Char, had difficulty breathing and begged for mercy with all his strength. I have told you everything I know, can you let me go now? A hint of disgust flashed in Char's eyes, and he said coldly, I really don't want to see a scum like you again. Even if he killed this kind of celestial dragon, he would not get many points. It would be better not to offend the powerful world government. At this time, several bodyguards who looked like celestial dragons ran over, pointed their guns at Char, and their tone was faintly threatening. Kneel down and surrender. What's going on? You're looking for death. You dare to offend our celestial dragons, who are nobles. It looks like you're going to die. Char was a little surprised, and the coldness in his eyes flashed away. He said with interest, I really don't know how you are going to kill me. After a few breaths, before Char gave these people time to react, he attacked them with a poisonous cloud. After the unresponsive bodyguards came into contact with the undefended poisonous cloud, their own 5.75 senses gradually disappeared, and they tragically lost control of their bodies and fell to the ground and died. At this time, a familiar ringing sound rang in Char's mind. Ding ding ding, congratulations on killing a celestial dragon's bodyguard and getting 10,000 points. Ding ding ding, congratulations on killing 3 celestial dragon's bodyguards and getting 30,000 points. Char was a little speechless. He didn't expect that these celestial dragons' bodyguards were not as good as the pirates he killed before, but it was okay this way. A mosquito meat is a mosquito meat. The miserable state of the bodyguards and Char's powerful strength had already made celestial dragons tremble in fear. Panic appeared in their eyes. They subconsciously picked up their pistols and shot at Char. A low gunshot sounded, and the bullet penetrated Sonoya's vague body. 127 killing and saving, goodbye. Char grabbed his neck again, without any time to beg for mercy, and decisively broke his neck. In Char's opinion, no matter who it is, if they dare to attack him, they should be prepared to be killed. Before leaving, Char did not forget to destroy the body and wipe out the evidence. After all, the death of a celestial dragon would indeed make the world government, which has always been the umbrella of celestial dragons, furious and make some irrational attacks. Okay, what should I do next? Char scratched his head and decided to walk around. Maybe he could meet a few pirate supernovas. After this earth-shaking incident, countless buildings in the Sabody Islands were destroyed, blood was flowing everywhere, and corpses were flying everywhere without care. It will take some time to restore the prosperous Sabody Islands in the past. Now the streets of the Sabody Islands are deserted, and no pirates can be seen anymore. Because of the previous attack by Kizaru and his marine, the pirates were completely unable to raise their heads, so they had to flee in panic. Coupled with Char's indiscriminate attack, countless innocent pirates died. Now many residents are still worried about whether the disaster will happen again, whether the pirates will fight with the marines on the island. If such a change happens again, they will probably be in tears. At the same time, Char, who had swept away all the pirates in the Sabody Islands and gained a considerable amount of points, was walking around in a black robe and hiding his true identity. For him, the greatest pleasure is to become stronger. It's so boring. Char supported his chin and groaned in distress. At this time, a casual remark from a passerby made Char's face change suddenly, revealing a hideous smile. Hey, have you heard that the auction has started again? It starts so soon, I'm afraid there won't be any good stuff. No, there really is. It is said that there is a pirate named Kid, who is said to be a fruit ability user. At this point, Pedestrian A couldn't help but take a deep breath and asked, Kid, this name is so familiar, is it the kid in the supernova? Pedestrian D, who knew the truth, shook his head and said, this is not the legendary supernova Captain Kid, just the same name. Hearing this, Char was no longer in the mood to listen, and an uncontrollable killing intent surged in his heart. With endless anger in his chest, he strode towards the auction. For Char, the thing he couldn't tolerate most in his life was that his partner was offended by others. This auction was simply seeking death. Although the Sabody Islands have experienced some earth-shaking changes, people's enthusiasm for buying slaves has become even more enthusiastic. Especially after experiencing a dangerous storm, they can't help but want to buy a powerful slave to protect themselves. 10 million Baileys. A customer shouted hoarsely. The auctioneer smiled brightly and hammered the final word. Just like that, a pale-faced pirate who had once served as a captain became a plaything of the nobles and lost his dignity and freedom. Char, who had just arrived here, saw this scene and felt sorry for the captain. The words the captain shouted before leaving made Char interested in him. Advertisement, as long as I can be liberated, I am willing to do anything, even if it means going through fire and water. But the guests laughed at him, and the contempt on their faces was obvious. In their eyes, it was just a pet that was shouting very wantonly. From the moment of the auction, the captain had turned from a commodity into a toy in their eyes. This slave really has no manners. Humph, he is indeed a pirate from a poor family. He, this pirate looks very generous. I would have taken him if I had known. 10 million Baileys is expensive, he really has no quality. The noble who had just bid for the former pirate captain sneered and whipped the captain hard, causing the captain to scream like a pig being slaughtered. At this moment, it seemed like the owner was abusing his pet. In the end, the noble seemed to feel that the slave he had just auctioned was very embarrassing for him, so he sped up and dragged the scarred captain away. Shortly after he walked out of the remote back door, he was blocked by the expressionless Char. This noble had already suffered heavy losses in his family property due to the previous incident of Luffy and others stealing the Sabody group land, and he had already had a lot of resentment. The slaves who had just been auctioned did not give him any face. Now there was a strange man who blocked his way for no reason. How could he not be angry? The noble smiled coldly and said, "Boy, who are you? Tell me your name." Char's mouth corners slightly raised, and without saying much, he instantly released a powerful poisonous dragon that pierced his chest and killed him. The noble still had anger on his face, and he fell heavily to the ground, and blood splattered on the face of the captain who was treated like a pet. The captain was full of disbelief, and it took a long time for him to recover and said gratefully, "Thank you 413, benefactor, I will definitely repay this favor. But this collar of mine," the captain gently touched the slave collar and sighed deeply. This slave collar is used by masters to prevent slaves. As long as the slave dares to leave him or escape, it will explode and instantly blow up the disobedient slave. Sha Ya glanced at the slave collar with disdain, and after reaching out to touch the slave collar, there was a click, and the slave collar automatically slipped off his neck. The captain opened his eyes and mouth wide. How could this slave collar automatically untie? Who is this man? But after thinking about it, ecstasy appeared on his face, which also meant that he would regain his life and dignity. How could he not be happy? Sha Ya said, "I saved you because you have to do something for me." The captain nodded vigorously, looking at Sha Ya as if he was looking at a savior, and gratefully said, "I can do anything you want me to do, just tell me." Sha narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "I want you to fight someone with me, but your life will be in danger, is that okay?" The captain nodded vigorously, patted his chest and said, "No matter who it is, I will accompany you." 128 Auction. Sha Ya smiled and said, "That's great. I still have some things to do at the auction, but your identity is not suitable to follow me in. You can wait for me at Street 41. The captain nodded. After Sha Ya moved his feet, he seemed to think of something important. He turned his head and said to him, "If you know anyone, you can try to recruit people for me. I need a lot of troops." The captain smiled and said, "I still know some friends. I will take care of this matter." Sha Ya took out a purse from his arms and handed it to the boat. This purse was taken out from the body of the celestial dragons he killed not long ago. Although he didn't look at it carefully, according to the weight, there should be a lot of money in it. The captain took the heavy purse in his hand, and a warm current of emotion ran through his heart. He was even more determined to go through fire and water for the man in front of him. The captain seemed to remember something and asked, "By the way, I don't know what your name is, boss." Sha Ya said, "My name is Sha Ya. Don't call me boss, just call me leader, leave." As soon as he finished speaking, he left in style, and his figure once again entered the auction. The reason why Char saved this captain who seemed to have no strength was because he suddenly felt that if he had more manpower in the next big event, it would make his plan even more powerful. In addition to Char's previous crazy killing, the points were as high as 50 million points. Char had no idea how to use so many points. This was one of the reasons why Char saved the captain. After returning to the auction, Char did not bid at the top of his lungs like other guests, but just stood quietly in a corner, as if everything in the world had nothing to do with him. The whole place was filled with a lively atmosphere. This cheerful atmosphere, it felt like the previous unhappiness of the crowd was blown away in an instant. Everyone showed a bright smile, their eyes were full of desire and wildness, and they auctioned slaves to their heart's content, completely ignoring those slaves who were unwilling. The subsequent auctions were all about beauties and musicians, which had no appeal to Char, who was determined to become a strong man. "It's so boring." Char leaned against a corner that no one noticed, and sighed. At this time, no one thought that Char's whole body venom was slowly spreading to all parts of the venue, let alone that Yuanthal was ready to kill everyone in the venue. CFCF, at this time, the auctioneer was a little excited, and his face flushed as he roared. "Next is our heavy item in this auction, the one with the Iron Fruit Kid, a powerful pirate worth 10 million Baileys." As soon as the voice fell, in the expectant eyes of the distinguished guests, Kid of Bloodline Madara was dragged out. The current kid was not as high-spirited as before, his eyes were full of bloodshot, and he looked tired. Seeing his former good partner become like this, how could Char, who always valued friendship, not be angry? Char's teeth squeaked. constantly suppressing the surging anger. He knew that now was not the time, and he must wait patiently. Soon after heating up the atmosphere for a while, the auctioneer finally started the auction that everyone was looking forward to, and said loudly, "Starting price of 10 million Baileys. 100 million. A young and beautiful woman with bright folds shouted loudly. From some of the golden accessories on her body, it can be seen that this woman does have an extraordinary life experience. This Haki's bid made everyone take a deep breath and swallow the price they were about to say. I didn't expect it to be so fierce. I really didn't expect it. 200 million. A middle-aged man with a confident face said loudly with sparks in his eyes. As soon as he said this, there was another uproar, and the price was raised by 100 million. F*K, these people are crazy. 200 million, my god, it's amazing. The exclamations of the crowd continued. At this time, something happened that no one had thought of. Advertisement Char's body was filled with venom, which he did not hide at all, letting it flow on the ground. He shouted, "Anyone here who is dissatisfied with the nobles can stand up, or come to me, otherwise it will be bad if I accidentally hurt you later." Everyone was in disbelief, and before they could react, the slaves around them shouted, "Oh, and me? Can you save us?" Randomly, these slave owners became furious, and they were all insulting or spurring their slaves on why they rebelled. Kid, who was held on the stage and treated as a clown by everyone, heard this familiar voice, and his eyes, which had originally been dull, suddenly burst into a strong brilliance, and looked at Char with a very complicated look. Char smiled with satisfaction, and the next moment, the bomb that had been hidden in the audience for a long time exploded instantly, and countless venom splashed from every corner, completely cutting off everyone's retreat, causing a sensation in the audience for a while. However, this was not the end. A few seconds later, a powerful poisonous dragon quickly emerged from Char's body. Except for the slaves, all the people were devoured by the poisonous dragon without mercy, and all turned into points for Char. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill a noble character to get 20,000 points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill 10 noble characters to get 200,000 points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill 20 noble characters to get 400,000 points. Just when Char smiled contentedly and thought that the harvest was just like this, the familiar ringtone in the system rang again. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill 70 auction customers to get 1.4 million points. Char couldn't help but be a little surprised, but then he thought about it and understood why this situation occurred. It turned out that there were not only nobles at the auction, but also rich people with ordinary status. Looking at the B************* D customers who had nothing left, Char shook his head. If he had known this, why did he do it in the first place? We are free. It's really great, thank you for saving us. How do I untie this collar? It won't really explode, will it? These newly freed slaves scratched their heads, still not knowing what the collars tied around their necks were for. Only some slaves who knew the market showed panic, fearing that the collars would explode with the death of the slave owners in the next moment. Char snorted disdainfully, and the powerful Conqueror's Haki was activated, destroying all the slave collars. 129 Rescue of slaves. The slave collars that frightened countless slaves fell to the ground automatically, and everyone was ecstatic and relieved. In this way, they were completely free. So they looked at Char with gratitude, and some beauties blew kisses to him, and some pirates who seemed to be quite strong patted their chests and vowed to repay Char. Char saw the expressions of the people, and a touch of joy flashed in his eyes. He wanted such an effect, to make these people grateful to him and gain more support from others. In the end, these people who had been forced into a desperate situation by the nobles completely surrendered to Char. They were all robbed as slaves and their families were broken and they had no relatives, so they could only surrender to Char. Among them, there were quite a few pirates who satisfied him. There are also some beauties and musicians whose functions are totally unknown. Although these beauties are full of elegance and the noble aura between their hands makes others think that they are princesses, no matter how beautiful they are, it is useless for Char, and he can't fight with others. If it were in the past, Char would definitely disdain them, but now he wants to strengthen his power, and more people are better than none. Maybe these beauties with devilish figures and angelic faces can boost morale. In short, today is really a day of great harvest. Char can't help but think happily in his heart. Next, it's true. Char walked to Kid, who had been freed from the hemp rope for a long time, with a serious look, and said in a low voice, "Look up and look at me." Kid still gritted his teeth and lowered his head, not daring to look into Char's eyes, as if he had done something to let Char down. Char sighed softly, turned around and said in a calm tone, "I won't say anything to you, anyway, just follow me." Kid hummed in a low voice. Afterwards, Char brought this large group of people to Street 41, where the captain he had rescued had agreed to meet. When Char arrived here, he was surprised. Dozens of pirates with murderous intent were sitting in a row here, and the captain he had rescued before was sitting in the middle. This guy, it turns out he is so reliable. Char's eyes flashed with joy, and he murmured. The captain who was rescued by Char saw Char's figure, his eyes sparkled, and he trotted over to Char's side and said respectfully, "Chief, I have done what you asked me to do before. Most of these people are good friends I knew before, and some are old acquaintances of mine. Hello, Chief Shaw. Advertisement, wow, there are so many beauties. Is this the master who saved the captain's brother? Char's name is so familiar, is it related to the rumored poisonous dragon Shia? A smart pirate immediately guessed Shia's identity. Shia squinted his eyes and nodded to admit, I am indeed Shia, hello. As soon as this was said, those who knew Shia's heroic record couldn't help but take a deep breath, their faces full of disbelief. Those who didn't know Shia suddenly showed a look of confusion, and asked insiders about Shia's affairs. When they knew about Shia's terrible deeds, they couldn't help but be moved, and looked at Shia with such shock. Shia, who saw everyone's expressions, just smiled and didn't say much. He said to the captain, I didn't expect you to be so good, you can recruit so many people. The captain smiled and said, although I, Hugo, am only worth 90 million Baileys, I am also very powerful. There was a hint of confidence in his words. Shia was a little surprised when he heard this. He didn't expect that the pirates he saved for a while still had such strength. Well, it's not bad. At this time, Char seemed to remember something important, and turned to the slaves behind him and asked, I may have to do some dangerous things later. If you want to follow me, come. If you don't want to, you can leave. I won't force you. The slaves looked at each other, and then each said, we are all willing to follow you. Char got this satisfactory answer, and a hint of disbelief flashed in his eyes. He underestimated the favor these people had for him. He originally thought that some people would leave him, but he didn't expect that so many people would follow him. It really made Char embarrassed. Please give me flowers. So far, Char has only said that there are some dangerous things to do, but he has not said clearly what he will do next. If we tell them directly that we will go to naval headquarters to make trouble in a few days, won't these people run away immediately? So Char has already made up his mind to cultivate a good relationship with them in these few days, and really get some subordinates who really work for him, and then tell them the truth of the matter. Char cleared his throat and said, after so many things happened, I'm afraid Marine will also take action. We can't stay in the Sabody Islands, otherwise it will be dangerous. Everyone nodded and agreed with Char's words. At the same time, most of them have grudges against the people here, and they really want to leave here quickly. 0. Char smiled with satisfaction and said, Hugo, I don't think you haven't prepared the boat. Hugo rolled his eyes and said with difficulty, I only prepared a small boat in advance. My small boat can only accommodate more than 20 people. I didn't think you would bring so many people here. This really can't be blamed on Hugo. Even Char didn't think he would bring so many people. It was initially estimated that he brought at least more than 30 people. Together with the pirates brought by Hugo, the total number suddenly exceeded expectations. However, the despicable and shameless Char never worried about the lack of a ship. He snorted coldly, then showed a ferocious smile and said viciously, no, then we will go and rob it. Everyone was shocked by Char's strong oath. They remembered that Char was a well-known pirate, not a philanthropist. At the same time, in the Sabody archipelago, a middle-aged man with a serious look was walking in the room, and asked the woman kneeling in front of him in an unquestionable tone, are you sure that it was the poisonous dragon who took away the slaves and destroyed the auction? The woman nodded and said seriously, the cameras on the streets showed that the poisonous dragon and the slaves looked very familiar. It was obviously him who did it. The serious middle-aged man sighed deeply and said in a low voice, if this is true, it will be troublesome. 130 enemy attack. The woman seemed to see the middle-aged man's worries and asked, are you worried that Marine will not make decisions for us businessmen for the next big move? The middle-aged man smiled bitterly and nodded, saying, yes, you are right. We will face the legendary man next. Marine will not use more troops here. Soon after, Char began his crazy and indiscriminate killing again. Of course, he was alone. He didn't want his subordinates to see his indiscriminate killing. He claimed to them that he had only bought several ships from others.
In the next few days, Char and his fleet began to conquer countless pirates based on a small island, and obtained a group of pirates who were not convinced.
For this group of pirates who had just come in and did not treat him, 063, sincerely, Char chose to screen them one by one. Those who were unwilling to obey him and only knew how to have fun and kill civilians, Char would mercilessly drag them to unknown places to give them death. However, what surprised Char was that the captain named Nar, to whom he had given the Iron Ball fruit not long ago, actually knew that he was here, and then brought his own pirate group to join him. Facing acquaintances coming to join him, Char certainly would not treat them unfairly, and arrange them well, without letting them feel a bit of neglect. Moreover, Char gave the title of captain of the second team to this Captain Nar, and merged his pirate group into his pirate group to become the second team. At that time, Char still clearly remembered the bright smiles that Nar and his men showed after knowing this, which were happy smiles from the bottom of their hearts. After so many things, now Char finally understands the hardship of being a leader. Dealing with these small things every day makes him very annoyed. If this energy is invested in training strength, he will definitely achieve something and become stronger. Of course, Char's efforts are not fruitless. With the development of time, Char's power has become more and more powerful, and gradually become so powerful that Marine cannot underestimate it. Char rubbed his forehead painfully and asked his trusted captain Hugo, have you done all the things I asked you to do before? Hugo sighed softly and said, your things really make me irritated. The first thing is to find the Whitebeard pirates, and the second thing is to find supernovas. Brother, who are these people? I have never met them before. After listening to this, Char's face became even more painful. The original text did not explain when the Summit War started, which also meant that Char had no idea when the big event would start and could not control the situation at all. As for letting Hugo look for supernovas, Char initially wanted to take advantage of the free time now to catch them all in one fell swoop, and improve his overall strength and power before the Summit War completely opened. Just as Char was thinking deeply, Hugo seemed to have thought of something very important, and said in a low voice, I said, Leader, have you thought of the name of our pirate group? Well, I have thought of it, it will be called the Great Sha Pirates. Char answered. He racked his brains to think of a name for the pirate group, and spent a long time, even staying up all night. Such a good name, this kid should be shocked. Char originally thought that Hugo would think this name is nice and that he has a talent for naming, but it turned out to be completely different. Hugo just said, oh, lightly, without much reaction. Char's facial muscles twitched. Forget it, don't want to communicate with such an uncultured barbarian. By the way, how is Kid? Char asked in a low voice with a serious face. Hugo said, he is still the same, not saying a word. But he is much better now, and his appetite is much better. Char nodded with satisfaction, but as long as Kid's mental condition improves, it will be fine. At this time, a stumbling figure ran over in a hurry, panting, Leader, Captain 1, something bad has happened. Char did not speak, but his eyes showed anger without concealment. Could anyone dare to provoke him? Hugo asked, what happened? The pirate who came to report the news said in a deep voice, several pirate ships of unknown origin suddenly rushed to the bay, saying that they wanted to ask us for protection money. They also said that if we don't pay, they will start to attack us. The two of them couldn't help but change their faces, and cast their eyes on the port not far away, only to see several pirate ships staying in front of them. I don't have any impression of those pirate flagships of Li Zhu and his people. After learning that the other party came with bad intentions, Char's face suddenly became gloomy, and his eyes released a chill. Captain Hugo of the first team pondered for a long time, and asked in a low voice, are you sure this is true? Do they know where we come from? The pirate who came to report the news nodded and said, he said that we are just a false name, and he said that he didn't take us seriously at all. The captain of the second team, Nar, was already furious and was gathering troops on the island. Char couldn't hold back the endless anger in his chest anymore, and waved his sleeves, saying coldly, tell Nar that he doesn't need to do it, let me do it. As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed to the bay like lightning, leaving behind two confused subordinates. After a while, Hugo wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said with a smile, it seems that another unlucky child is going to die. At this time, the Daxia pirates on the island were engaged in an unprecedented verbal battle with the other party. Both sides were insulting each other with all their strength, and even the other party's family was cursed. Who are you? Why don't you bring us money and property quickly? Char, what is that? I have never heard of him. Hey, do you know? I heard that he is a pirate with a bounty of 600 million, but I think he is just a piece of trash and is not worth such a high bounty of 600 million. Ha, the Marines are really getting less and less visionary now. Even our captain Nick only has 80 million Baileys, and that Char, who I seem to have only heard of recently, has 600 million. Everyone pointed at the Great Sha pirates on the island, and everyone laughed out loud with exaggerated movements, especially their captain Nick, whose words were disgusting and extremely vulgar. In the eyes of this group of people, Char was just a scumbag pirate who was misjudged by Marine and whose strength was not that strong at all. 131 big move in 3 days. The Daxia pirates on the island could not stand such insults from the other side, especially when they insulted their great captain. You are looking for death, assholes, why do you want to fight? If you want to fight, just say it. The Daxia pirates were not willing to be outdone and angrily sprayed each other. Those pirates who did not take the Daxia pirates seriously at all smiled and showed contempt. Nick snorted disdainfully, standing on the high bow and looking down at the people on the island. In his opinion, these people were a group of ants and a bunch of trash. Nick has been on the scene for 7 or 8 years, but his bounty has not exceeded 100 million. However, this little brat of Char actually killed Magellan by luck and got a bounty of 600 million. How could the arrogant captain Nick tolerate that a rising star like Char could do something that he couldn't do at all and make Marine pay so much attention to him? Besides, if Char hadn't come to the 25 area to develop his power before, Captain Nick wouldn't be so angry. In the past few days, due to Char's crazy increase in power, the economic interests that originally belonged to Nick were accidentally damaged. What's more terrible is that Char also destroyed several pirate groups that had been with their Reihe pirates for a long time. In the end, he also heard that the captains of these pirate groups all had no good results, and most of them ended up missing. Captain Nick of the Reihe pirates didn't know that Char was secretly killing his old friends, so his attitude towards Char became even worse. This rising star who seemed to have appeared out of nowhere actually dared to climb on his head and shit. This made him so angry that his anger overwhelmed his brain, which led to what happened today. Nick stared at the people on the island with fiery eyes, and excitedly pointed his sword at them and shouted, "Brothers, don't talk to them so much, they won't listen anyway, kill them. Kill them, Captain is right, don't try to talk to trash. Go, kill. Hee. I heard that there are many peerless beauties here, it seems that we can enjoy it." The pirates of the Liwi pirates didn't take the Daxia pirates seriously at all. They all rushed to the shore with rich combat experience and qualifications on the Grand Line. If it weren't for the second team Captain Nar, who was stopped by everyone, he would have seen this scene and used his body to get rid of his partner's entanglement. The Iron Fist fruit ability user suddenly launched, and both arms turned into iron balls, smashing the enemy pirates in the front, instantly smashing their heads, and blood splattered everywhere. Nar's terrifying attack made some pirates want to retreat, and they realized that the other party was not a pushover. Captain Nick's eyes were burning with raging war. He decided to go out and lead the vanguard. While running, he shouted to encourage morale. "Brothers, don't be afraid of them, they're never worried." Yes, don't be afraid of them. Even if they're capable people, what can they do? Just hit them. Long live Captain Nick. With Captain Nick's personal charge, the pirates who had just lost their fighting spirit because of Nar's bravery showed an indignant look and moved forward again. Nar, the captain of the second team of the Daxia pirates, was also a fierce man. For him, it was better to die on the battlefield and have a good fight than to be insulted and humiliated by the enemy. So Nar did not hesitate to lead the excellent pirates who had just been trained on the island and started a fierce offensive and defensive battle with the enemy. Captain Nick originally thought that this was a battle that could be won easily, but soon he found out that he was wrong. The group of people in front of him actually had such a strong fighting power and suppressed their momentum. How could this be possible? Captain Nick wiped the sweat from his face calmly, and a barely perceptible shock flashed in his eyes. At this moment, a gloomy and cold voice sounded behind him, and the coldness that ran through his body instantly chilled his entire back. Captain Nick felt the terrifying sight behind him, and an uncontrollable desire surged in his heart. He turned his head in disbelief. He saw Char showing him a hideous smile, and terrible venom continued to surge out of his body, emitting terrifying steam as if waving at him. Captain Nick was simply terrified. Captain Nick swallowed nervously, his face full of disbelief, and his voice trembled a little. "Who are you?" Char narrowed his eyes clearly revealed a cold murderous aura, and said in a low voice, "You don't even know me, and you still have the courage to challenge me." Char's words suddenly reminded Nick who the man in front of him was. Nick opened his eyes wide and opened his mouth hard, but I couldn't say a word. Char's figure turned into poisonous light, and the next moment he grabbed Nick's collar and lifted him up. His expressionless face was slightly angry, and he said in a deep voice, "You can tell me now, what conditions do you have to let me let you go?" Captain Nick's teeth were creaking, and the poison 140 liquid that was still churning violently in Char's body made him feel terrified from the bottom of his heart. He gritted his teeth and said, "Although I don't have much Bailey, I have lived in this sea area for a short time, and I still know a lot of things. Please let me go." Char smiled with interest, coldly said, "Then do you know when will Marine start to execute Ace?" Nick rolled his eyes and said in an uncertain tone, 3 days later." Char's sharp eyes were enough to penetrate Captain Nick's body, and he said in a cold tone, "Don't talk to me in such an ambiguous tone, do you know it or not?" Nick swallowed again and said vaguely, "I only know that Marine will make a big move in 3 days, and first heard that Marine is considering the previous attack of the giant on Impel Down, so it is preparing to strengthen the guard of Impel Down to prevent someone from robbing the prison." The next moment, Nick's voice stopped abruptly, and the poisonous dragon that appeared without any warning pierced Nick's chest at once, and he died tragically. Afterwards, under Char's nearly invincible and terrifying strength, the pirates of the pirate group that Nick belonged to were killed one after another, and none of them could escape. They all looked painful and ushered in the last moment of their lives. At the same time, a very familiar ringtone rang in Char's mind. 132 getting ready to Impel Down, ding ding ding, system prompt. Kill one member of the railway pirates and get 40,000 points. Ding ding ding, system prompt. Kill 40 members of the railway pirates and get 800,000 points. Ding ding ding, system prompt. Kill one captain of the railway pirates and get 80,000 points. After receiving the system prompt, Char couldn't help but be a little surprised. First of all, he had killed so many people without knowing it, and secondly, these pirates who looked like weaklings actually had so many points, which was beyond Char's expectations. "Leader, our losses are a bit serious." As Char's confidant admiral and the only man who can use his brain in his pirate group, Hugo, of course, shoulders the important role of strategy and advice, and plays an indispensable role in Char's next plan. Char frowned and said, "Is it serious?" Hugo smiled bitterly and told him the battle situation, which immediately gave Char a headache, as he actually lost so much combat power. However, what made Char happy was that after this battle, the Great Shah pirates learned a bloody lesson. From then on, they were no longer weak in actual combat, and their level was much higher than before. At this time, Hugo seemed to think of something important like 910, and asked, "I just learned from several pirates who died not long ago that Marine will execute the famous Fire Fist Ace in 3 days. The loyal Whitebeard will definitely attack naval headquarters. It seems that there will be another bloody storm. Leader, should we temporarily leave this sea area for a while? I feel that this wave will cause more chaos." As expected, he was his #1 dog-headed military advisor, and his ability to do things and his analytical skills were pretty good. Char couldn't help but cast a look of admiration at Hugo. The development of things was indeed as he said. Whitebeard would definitely attack Naval Headquarters Marineford, and this battle was called Summit War in history, with a very significant impact. Ace's death is imminent, and Char tells Hugo all of his real plans so that he can be mentally prepared. When Hugo learned of Char's real plan, he was shocked. He stood there in a daze as if struck by lightning and couldn't say a word. Char seemed to have known that Hugo would have such a reaction. He just smiled and didn't say much. Char knew that he needed to give Hugo some time to react. Advertisement, however, 3 days later, Char touched his chin and thought deeply. His plan was to gain huge benefits from the Summit War, an event that was destined to shake the world. The most critical part was to prevent Whitebeard from dying so quickly. If Whitebeard was defeated too quickly and the situation collapsed further, then Char would not get any benefits. Now the more critical point is that because of his actions, the plot of Straw Hat Pirates Luffy and others cannot proceed as in the original. This time, the Straw Hat Pirates may not disperse as in the original, and if they leave the Sabody Island smoothly, it will be very bad. Because in the original, Straw Hat Luffy will be in Summit War played a very important role from beginning to end. If he was missing, the things that happened next would probably not develop as Char expected. This is very tricky. I have to find a way to bring the plot back, Jongya thought to himself. At this moment, Hugo suddenly raised his head, with an inexplicable light flashing in his eyes, and said in a low voice. Could it be that you, the leader, made a big fuss and Impel down before, in order to rescue the Fire Fist Ace? Char couldn't help but be a little surprised, wondering why Hugo had such an idea. After a random thought, Char figured it out. Indeed, he and Whitebeard had no relatives, so why should he help Whitebeard to join the war? This was unreasonable in any way. Did Char want to tell Hugo that in fact, the probability of Whitebeard's side being the loser in Summit War, CFBG, was very high, and his real goal was actually to gain benefits in this war? But Char had a headache at this time, because he didn't know how to explain it to Hugo, and what was more terrible was how he should explain it to the other crew members in the same way. If he told them the whole plan, it would be terrible in a sense. At this critical moment, suddenly, a light bulb flashed in Char's mind, and a bold idea came to his mind. He was so excited that he accidentally blurted out the brilliant plan he had just thought of. Go to Impel down. Char's face showed ecstasy, and he blurted out. Char's excited reaction instantly scared Hugo next to him. Hugo, who was still in a state of shock, suddenly woke up and looked frightened. Hugo wiped the cold sweat that kept coming out of his forehead and said in a low voice, I say, leader, what do you mean by this? You want to go to Impel down? My god, are you crazy? The captain of the first team of the Great Shaw Pirates was really speechless after hearing that Char was going to Impel down. That's Impel down, you can't just go in casually. There are many masters in it, and in this sensitive period, Marine must have increased more guards in Impel down and increased security awareness to some extent. However, Hugo suddenly remembered the heroic deeds of Char who had caused a big fuss in Impel down, and he was relieved and less worried. Char shook his head, his eyes flashing with a dazzling light called confidence, clenched his fists tightly, and said something that made Hugo sweat more on his forehead. What are you afraid of? I've been in once. The strong and dazzling light of confidence made Hugo unable to open his eyes. This leader is crazy, damn it, Hugo sighed softly, holding his forehead with a painful face, and a hint of helplessness appeared in his eyes. As one of Char's confidants, he knew very well that if Char was determined to do something, 10 cows would not be able to pull him. Now what he had to do was to fully support Char's plan. So Hugo asked, are we ready to do something? Char raised the corner of his mouth slightly and said, based on the strength of the Impel down group, they're not my opponents at all. You can just support me outside when the time comes. At the same time, this is the Sunny of the Straw Hat Pirates. Luffy is making a big fuss about going to Impel down to rescue Ace. Because of this, Nami is worried. Nami said angrily, Luffy, that's Impel down. There are a lot of large sea kings on the seabed outside the prison, and that Impel down is known as an iron wall. 133 Impel down. Luffy's body was constantly shaking, and he stared at the life paper in his hand that was slowly disappearing with his eyes burning with anger. This life paper represented Ace's life. If this life paper disappeared, Ace would no longer exist in this world. I must save Ace. Luffy gritted his teeth and lowered his voice. Nami couldn't say anything more when she saw Luffy like this. Finally, the Straw Hat Pirates decided to go to Impel down to rescue Ace. At this time, many extremely evil criminals were imprisoned under Impel down, and it was also the most heavily guarded place in Impel down, IV6. This is also the place where the famous criminal Fire Fist Ace is located. At this time, Fire Fist Ace didn't look as high-spirited as before. He just had his hair disheveled and his head drooped, looking lost and depressed. He seemed to be muttering, don't come, and no one knew who he was talking about. Next to him was Jinbei, a fishman from Shichibukai. Jinbei looked at Ace with a serious expression and asked in a low voice, Mr. Ace, who is your brother and why is he coming? Before, Ace the Fire Fist told him that his brother would come to save him. Jinbei asked this question out of curiosity. Ace the Fire Fist seemed to sigh and said, my stupid brother is called Straw Hat Luffy. Jinbei said, oh, in surprise and then said nothing. The cell became silent again. 3 days later, the Straw Hat Pirates recovered from the injuries they had suffered in the Sabody group in the past few days. All this was thanks to their Dr. Chopper. Ordinary doctors could not do this at all, but under the hands of Chopper, who was a skilled doctor, the Straw Hats and others recovered miraculously. Even though the injuries have recovered, everyone is a little nervous, looking at the dangerous Impel down in front of them. This indestructible prison is full of weirdness, giving people a feeling of despair. However, Luffy did not feel nervous at all. Instead, he laughed and waved his arms and shouted, "Let's go." Advertisement: not only the Straw Hat Pirates are taking action, but Char of the Great Shaw Pirates has also started to take action. After learning the specific date of Ace's execution, Char immediately started the plan he had thought of not long ago, organized the manpower, and made preparations to go to Impel down. So Char is very confident that he can hold out for hundreds of rounds under each Marine Admiral, but in the sea, if he encounters bad weather, no matter how powerful Char is, he can't beat the magical power from nature. What's more, Char is still demon fruit power, and he can't play any strength in the sea. So in this Grand Line, no crew member who doesn't have a good tacit understanding can survive on this Grand Line. So this is why Char needs urgent manpower, and it is also one of the main reasons why Char wants to form the Great Shaw Pirates. This time, Char brought the main force directly to Impel down, although this main force cannot play a strong role at present and can't help him at all. But Char still wants to bring them here to feel the atmosphere and completely protect his retreat. Who knows if there will be a powerful Marine Master in Impel down. Char narrowed his eyes and stared at the familiar Impel down in front of him, and couldn't help but sigh softly. Not long ago, he became famous in Impel down and killed Magellan and others here. Maybe those jailers and prison officers would attack him with red eyes when they saw him. But Char was very excited, because for him, the large number of extremely evil criminals and some powerful prison officers and soldiers in Impel down were all his points. As long as he killed these people, there was no doubt that Char's strength would be further improved and his Haki would become stronger. "Ah, I am very excited when I think of this." After Char groaned in distress, he greeted everyone in the Daishin Pirates. Char, who couldn't wait, sneaked into Impel down like a ghost, and no one could find the process. Just like this, an incredible beast entered Impel down and was about to start his massacre. At this time, Impel down was in IV-1, which was the easiest to defend. Advertisement: one of the jailers yawned and said lazily, "Ah, it's so boring." His partner beside him tapped his head seriously, indicating that he should work hard on patrol. Although the jailer was tapped by his partner, he still didn't change his indifferent attitude and said, "This kind of thing is casual. Think about it, that smoker has come to guard us, what's so scary? I really don't believe that anyone dares to attack us." Impel down. The partner said with a smile, "Even if the superiors send such a strong admiral, we have to be serious. If the superiors know that we are lazy, wouldn't it be terrible?" When his partner opened his mouth and said something, he saw a shadow approaching him quickly from the corner of his eye. Panic immediately appeared on his face, and before he could react, a terrifying punch had landed on his chest and instantly blew his body apart. When the jailer was still wondering why his partner didn't say anything, he suddenly felt a pain in his neck, and his consciousness slowly disappeared, and he fell to the ground and died tragically. 0. And it was Char who caused all this. Immediately afterwards, Char attacked many jailers in the same way and killed them all. When these jailers died, the long-lost system bell rang in Char's mind. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill an Impel down jailer and get 50,000 points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill 10 Impel down jailers and get 500,000 points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill 20 Impel down jailers and get 1 million points. It was so simple, 1 million points were in hand, and Char's heart was still filled with joy. A gloomy voice rang in his ears, saying, "Who is coming?" A serious-looking man with a big knife on his shoulder showed a ferocious smile to Char, with a cold flash in his eyes, and said viciously. Char was stunned for a moment, then smiled with narrowed eyes. "Oh, don't you know me?" The man frowned, and Char's familiar face instantly reminded him of who he was. He was full of disbelief, and couldn't help but step back a few steps, looking at Char with fearful eyes as if he had met some terrible enemy. 134 prisoners. The man couldn't help but swallow nervously. Just when he was about to shout for Char's arrival, Char would not give him the chance. The terrifying Conqueror suddenly rose up and knocked the man down. The man's eyes rolled back and his body fell backwards as if weightless. At this time, Char once again threw a terrifying punch and instantly knocked the man to the ground. At this time, several patrolling jailers happened to pass by here. After seeing this scene, they were full of disbelief and their eyes flashed with incredible colors. Char's eyes turned cold. He couldn't let these jailers expose his existence. Immediately afterwards, Char kicked the ground hard and closed the distance between them at lightning speed. The extremely powerful poisonous dragon surged out of his body and instantly swallowed and digested the jailers who had not yet reacted. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill an Impel down jailer and get 50,000 points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill 5 Impel down jailers and get 150,000 points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill an Impel down jailer and get 25 points. After doing all this, Sha Ya didn't breathe and looked calm, as if all this was not a big deal for him. After that, Sha Ya slowly entered the interior of Impel down. When the prisoners in the prison saw Sha Ya, a dazzling light of hope ignited in their eyes. They shouted loudly as if they had found their backbone. Hey, this guy, can you help open the door? Save our lives, we will repay you well, yes. As long as you are willing to help, I am willing to listen to you in the future. Char paused, raised his mouth slightly and said to them, Oh, is it true? As long as I rescue you, are you willing to do things for me? The prisoners nodded vigorously. They have been locked up here for a long time and are eager to get out. Now Char's appearance has given them a glimmer of hope. Char snorted coldly and offered his own conditions. It's okay, but I will go to IV2 later. As long as you are willing to go with me, it's not impossible to rescue you. The prisoners looked unbelievable when they heard this. What? Let them continue to move forward into Impel Down. Isn't this a scam? You know, as you go inside, the strength of Impel Down's guards will also be strong. Wouldn't it be a trap for these prisoners to go to IV2? After hearing Char's words, some prisoners began to hesitate. Seeing the expressions of the prisoners, Sha Ya just smiled and said, I hope you can make a choice quickly. I have limited time and I don't want to waste it on such unimportant things. Advertisement, I am willing, please let me out quickly. I don't want to stay in this hellhole anymore. As long as you dare to let me out, I'm willing to go crazy with you. After a while, there were bursts of angry shouts. Although most people didn't say this sincerely, they were willing to do anything for the chance of regaining their freedom. Char smiled with satisfaction and simply threw punches one after another. These cells that looked tall and hard in front of the prisoners began to show cracks one by one, and then the shackles that tightly held them here collapsed one after another. The prisoners were stunned for a moment, and then they couldn't help but sigh in shock. Is this a human? How could he fall down with just one punch? This is too scary. After doing all this, Char walked towards the passage of IV2 as if nothing had happened, and then some prisoners followed him closely, but there were still a large number of prisoners who thought that going further into Impel Down would be a death wish, and naively believed that Char would not do anything to them. So this group thought it was extremely irrational to follow Char. They instantly forgot the shocking fact of who freed them. After looking around, they all ran towards the exit, completely ignoring Char. At this time, the prisoners following Char saw that their former companions in the same prison had escaped, and their hearts were inevitably shaken. They began to give up fulfilling their promises and did not want to continue following Char. However, Char treated all this as if nothing had happened, and continued to walk with majestic steps as if nothing had happened. A prisoner lowered his voice and said, Hey, look, those people have been running for a long time, and the man still didn't do anything to them. Why don't we go too? Going in is just looking for death. Another prisoner also lowered his voice and said, I think you are right. If this continues, we will probably die. The guards of IV2 are not fake. They are not as strong as ours. Each of them has the terrifying power of one person against 100. Now I only know that we will definitely die if we go inside. If we go to the exit and abandon that man, we still have a chance of survival. What do you think? Well, I think what you said makes sense. Why should we hang on to a dead tree? There were quite a few prisoners who had similar ideas, so several prisoners chose to abandon Char and give up what 037 had promised Char. They all ran to the exit in unison. However, there were still some prisoners with determined expressions who chose to continue to follow Char. They believed that since Char had such a terrifying strength, he would definitely not give up on them. Besides, most of those who chose to follow Char were real men who valued friendship. In their opinion, if you say you want to do something, you must continue to stick to it. After walking for a long time, Char's steps suddenly stagnated slightly. He turned around and showed a bright smile to the prisoners who followed him closely and smiled with satisfaction, opening his arms and saying, Congratulations on your correct choice, welcome to my great Sha pirates. I am the leader Char, and you can just call me the big leader in the future. Hearing the familiar name Char, the prisoners from Impel Down were a little confused, and they always felt that they had heard it somewhere. A prisoner frowned and asked, Strange, the name Char sounds familiar to me. Yes, I feel like I've heard this name for a long time. And it's super familiar, could it be someone we know? Just when everyone looked confused, a prisoner suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his eyes, and the information about Char instantly broke into his mind, making him blurt out. Is it the poisonous dragon Char who killed the former warden Magellan? 135 Hanayabal appears. After hearing this, everyone was shocked, and looked at Char with a hint of fear. They thought that Char's origin was not simple, and that he must be a tough guy who dared to break into Impel Down and save people. But they didn't expect that this man was the legendary poisonous dragon Char, the fierce man who killed Magellan and Shiryu of Rain, two terrifying beings that frightened countless prisoners. Thinking of this, the prisoners couldn't help but show disbelief, and their eyes were filled with incredible colors. The next moment, something unexpected happened. Char roared, and poisonous dragons with ferocious mouths continued to emerge from his body. Steam came out of these poisonous dragons, as if with their appearance, even the temperature around them rose. Then these poisonous dragons rushed towards those who chose to go against Char in a unified direction with the momentum of breaking the wind, and devoured them all to death. Those prisoners who chose to betray Char could only watch their companions being devoured by the powerful poisonous dragons, and they had no chance to fight back. No, what the hell is this? Poison dragon, Could it be? Isn't this Magellan's poison fruit? What's going on? Why is it attacking us? Ah, get out of my body, no. The prisoners who chose to betray Char all faced the last moment of their lives. Their feet, unfortunately entangled by the poison dragon, were like a quagmire that they couldn't get out of. They couldn't move their feet at all, and were slowly killed with screams. In a short while, the vital signs of these prisoners who chose to betray Char disappeared completely, and they died tragically. Some prisoners were even swallowed by the poison dragon without even a bone, and completely turned into nothingness. Suddenly, a weird atmosphere spread throughout the venue, and every survivor showed panic on their faces, looking at Char with such fear. However, looking at Char's attitude, he probably won't attack them. The prisoners who chose to believe in Char from beginning to end breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they chose to follow this man, otherwise they would probably be swallowed by those terrifying poisonous dragons like these miserable people in front of them, and die miserably here. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill an Impel down prisoner and get 40,000 points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill 10 Impel down prisoners and get 400,000 points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill 20 Impel down prisoners and get 600,000 points. The familiar system bell sounded in Char's mind again. Char's mouth slightly raised when he heard the system bell. Another rich score was in his hand. This Impel Down was indeed his rich land. If the prison generals and soldiers of Impel Down heard what Char said, would they die speechless? Afterwards, relying on Char's terrifying strength, everyone successfully killed IV-6. Countless prison officers and jailers seemed so vulnerable in Char's hands. Under Char's unparalleled conquerors, who could beat him? Of course, Char did not forget to use his old tricks again. While turning countless prisoners into his subordinates, he also accidentally turned countless prisoners into his own points. Thanks to this, Char's points have reached 70 million points. This number really surprised Char and made him dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it. At this time, Char couldn't help but sigh that Impel Down was really his blessed place. However, no matter how many points he had, it was useless. What he lacked now was people who could use Haki. Although it was not like the New World where anyone could use Haki, there were still some prison generals who could use Haki, but the quantity and quality were relatively small, which could not satisfy Char at all. Advertisement, in other words, if he wanted to make a big step forward in his strength, he could only reach IV-6. There were many masters there, and it was also the most heavily guarded place. At the same time, in the monitoring room, Hannibal, who temporarily took over the position of prison warden, was emotionally insulting the relevant personnel, accusing them of why they did not report the news of Char and others to him as soon as possible. These monitoring personnel were also helpless, because Char's progress was so terrifying that he could reach level 5 in just a few hours, and he released countless prisoners and defeated countless prison generals and soldiers. It was this god-like speed that prevented them from arranging traps to defeat Char and others as soon as possible. At this moment, Hannibal seemed to have seen something incredible from the corner of his eye. He pointed at the three figures on the surveillance screen in disbelief: Lotus, and the main person, the goose. A staff member in the monitoring room wiped his glasses, and after seeing one of them wearing a familiar straw hat, he took a deep breath and said in an unsure tone, "My God, that's not Straw Hat Luffy, right?" With the appearance of this sentence, many people cast their eyes here, and then they couldn't help but be moved, with a hint of fear in their eyes. No way, that poison dragon Char is here, and this Straw Hat Luffy is here too. What's going on? It feels like something is going to happen to our Impel Down again. It's over. This time the sky is really falling. I know those three people, one of them is Sanji, and the other is Zoro. Strange, why are there only three of them? What's going on? Warden, what should we do? Should we seek feedback from the higher-ups? Although Hannibal is usually lazy, he became more serious than ever in this critical situation that could affect his future. Hannibal's face no longer had the same playful smile as before, but a solemn expression that had never been seen before. He commanded majestically, "First, let the prison commander of IV-6 know that Char is coming. Second, set up traps to kill the three people of Straw Hat Luffy." Just as Hannibal was commanding everyone to give orders, Char was looking seriously at Anbutjevankomen, a man with a strange appearance and a very understanding temper. "This is IV-5, the country of transvestites. The transvestite paradise now has no peaceful atmosphere as before. Fires are spreading everywhere. Countless people are lying here quietly. Standing in the middle is Emporio Ivankov." At this time, Emporio Ivankov's body twitched in pain, and his right hand seemed to be covered with deadly venom. He was staring at Char in front of him with his fiery eyes, and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Char boy, what do you mean by this? Why did you attack us?" Char smiled and said something that Emporio Ivankov was destined to never understand: "Because of your Haki, I really need it." 136 The Crisis of the Demon King. Emporio Ivankov snorted coldly and said, "I have no idea what you are talking about." As soon as he finished speaking, a disgusting death glare rushed towards Char. Char licked his lips excitedly. He could clearly feel how powerful and terrifying this attack was. But Char, whose mind was overwhelmed by the will to fight, completely ignored what the effect would be if he took the attack head-on. He stood in front of everyone and blocked the attack. His body felt the amazing impact and was making a creaking sound, but Char was extremely excited. Char held his forehead with excitement, his eyes bursting with brilliance, and said arrogantly like a madman. Ahaha, this strength is great, Emporio Ivankov, you are really the best. This way you are qualified to be absorbed by me. The poisonous dragons surrounding Char seemed to feel the excitement of their master and waved excitedly. Emporio Ivankov's facial muscles twitched. This Char's previous incident in Impel Down was very famous. As a ********* paradise, he must have heard of it, but he didn't expect this Char to be so crazy. He attacked his ******* paradise for no reason, and injured countless beloved subordinates. What's more terrible is that his own attack seemed to have no effect on him. How powerful is this poisonous dragon? Although he had all kinds of fear in his heart, all of this could not offset the raging fire in his heart. Surprisingly, Emporio Ivankov was angry and shouted at the top of his lungs. Dare to hurt my dear Bay, poisonous dragon, I will not forgive you. As soon as the voice fell, his body was as violent as lightning, and he used the strongest attack, Galaxy Wink. The power of this attack was dozens of times that of the Death Wink. The amazing shockwave rushed towards the calm and at ease Char. The prisoners behind Char couldn't help but open their eyes wide when they saw this scene, and their faces were full of panic. This powerful shockwave even made their skin feel the horror. As they expected, Char should have used his lightning speed to dodge the attack at this time. However, they could never guess what Char did. Char stood alone in front, without using his fruit ability, just standing there quietly waiting for this powerful attack. After a few breaths, an extremely powerful shockwave, the strongest advertisement strike Galaxy Wink, hit Char. At this moment, Char's skin turned into steel color, which is the color of Haki. With a bang, Char was still calm and at ease, without a single scar on his body. It was really hard to believe how he blocked this attack, it was too unbelievable. A deep disappointment flashed in Char's eyes, and he looked at Emporio Ivankov as if he was looking at killing someone, and said in a cold tone. So weak, in this case, I will kill you. As soon as he finished speaking, an amazing aura burst out from his body, and the hidden power was no longer hidden, and the firepower of his whole body burst out. This time, Char did not use the poison fruit, but only relied on physical skills to deal with Emporio Ivankov. Ordinary people only know that Char's poison fruit is very powerful, but in fact, Char's real ability lies in Haki. Who told him that he has the strongest Haki system? In just a moment, Emporio Ivankov was completely suppressed by Char, and he, who was once called the ******* king, could not even lift his head and could only allow himself to be beaten. At this time, Emporio Ivankov's friend, the Wounded Lightning, used the power of the scissor fruit, cut the floor and rushed towards Char. Char snorted disdainfully, flashed, and instantly penetrated the floor, abandoning his original target Emporio Ivankov, and rushed straight towards Lightning who attacked him.
Lightning's pupils shrank, and when he wanted to attack again, it was too late. Char's figure had appeared behind him, and he punched hard, instantly knocking Lightning away.
Emporio Ivankov saw this, his face flushed and he shouted hoarsely, Lightning boy. Blood flowed from the corner of Lightning's mouth, and he hit the wall, knocking out a human whole. Char would not give up this opportunity to pursue the victory, and continued to pursue an attack, causing Lightning to spit blood from his mouth, and the scars on his body continued to increase at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not far away, Emporio Ivankov, who was half kneeling on the ground due to exhaustion, could only watch his friend being beaten by Sonoya. Let's end it. After saying this calmly, Char punched Lightning in the chest and took his life. Emporio Ivankov opened his eyes wide and uttered a miserable cry. Despair filled his eyes. Advertisement at the same time, a familiar system ringtone flashed in Char's mind. Ding ding ding. System prompt. Kill the Revolutionary Army Cadre Lightning and get 1 million points. Ding ding ding. System prompt. There is Haki in this party, do you want to absorb it? The required points are 2 million? Char felt his heart bleeding, but he still silently chose to absorb Haki. In his eyes, his own strength and Haki are always more important than points. Afterwards, the Haki on Lightning was gradually absorbed by Char, making Char's Haki cultivation stronger. Although the Haki cultivation of this Lightning is not as good as the Haki held by the previous Rain Shiryu, he is at least one of the cadres of the Revolutionary Army.
Ding DD. The target has the ability of the scissor fruit. Do you want to use the simulation fruit to extract its fruit ability? The required points are 4 million.
4 million, although Char still felt a little distressed, he still extracted it. A scissor fruit with a magical aura appeared above Lightning's body without warning. Char threw it to a prisoner and said, "This is the scissor fruit, keep it safe." The prisoner who took the scissor fruit couldn't help but take a deep breath of 1.1 cold air and muttered, "My God, this is a devil fruit." At this time, he was still in a confused state, and he didn't expect that he would get the devil fruit at this time. How did you do this? Why can you extract the devil fruit? I remember that this fruit ability belongs to the person called Lightning. I heard that Char's ability is exactly the same as that of the former Warden Magellan. Could it be?
Too incredible, too incredible. It instantly caused a sensation among the crowd, and everyone's face was filled with disbelief.
It was no wonder that they were so shocked. The ability to extract the power of the devil fruit was unheard of. However, there was more greed in everyone's eyes. As long as they swallowed this devil fruit, they would become even stronger.
137 Death of Ivankov. As if seeing the greed hidden in everyone's heart, Char said calmly, "Since I can extract this devil fruit from others, I can naturally extract my devil fruit ability from your bodies."
Although his tone was very calm, the murderous aura hidden in it could not be hidden in any way, so everyone's heart was slightly startled, and they immediately gave up their greed for this devil fruit. Facing a terrifying existence like Char, they really didn't dare to resist. However, Char didn't dispel their greed with one stick, but continued to say lightly, "I won't take this scissor fruit. When you go to the battlefield for me in the future and make great contributions, this fruit will belong to the one with the greatest contribution." Everyone was ecstatic when they heard this. There is such a good thing? I must listen to the leader carefully. Military merit, ha ha ha, leave it to me. No matter what the enemy is, we are not afraid. This scissor fruit must belong to me, ha ha ha. You are not allowed to snatch it from me. These Impel down criminals shouted one after another, wishing they could fight for Char right now. Not far away, Emporio Ivankov saw his former friend's devil fruit being used by others, and the anger in his eyes intensified. Emporio Ivankov supported his exhausted body and stood up shakily, staring at Char with a pair of eyes burning with anger, as if Char was his enemy. Char sighed softly, turned his head and looked at Emporio Ivankov. His eyes were slightly disappointed. "You really disappoint me," Char said lightly. The fighting spirit in his eyes had long disappeared, replaced by a look of indifference.
Emporio Ivankov's eyes sparked, and he didn't say much to Char, and used the last blow to Char, the death wink. Char snorted disdainfully, letting the shock wave run through his body.
Boring to the extreme. After saying this, Char's figure began to blur, and the next moment he appeared behind Emporio Ivankov. Advertisement Emporio Ivankov was shocked and said in shock, "So fast." Puff. Emporio Ivankov, who had just reacted, looked at his chest in disbelief, and saw a strange big hand piercing his chest deeply, and with a lot of blood flowing out of his chest, he suddenly felt his consciousness slowly begin. "I really didn't expect that I would die here. Long, don't fail your dream." In the last moment of his life, Emporio Ivankov did not think about how to survive, but was concerned about the situation of the Revolutionary Army.
Not long after, Emporio Ivankov's body fell down with a bang. His eyes slowly closed, blood flowed everywhere. The shocking blood made the prisoners who were watching the whole process shudder, and they were more determined to follow Char, the peerless strong man. At this moment, a familiar system ringtone flashed in Char's mind. Ding dee dee. System prompt. Kill the Revolutionary Army cadre Emporio Ivankov, get 9 million points. Ding dee dee. System prompt. Kill the Revolutionary Army cadre Emporio Ivankov, get 9 million points. Even Char, who had a huge amount of points, couldn't help but be moved and dumbfounded after hearing this news. It was actually 9 million points. This number was too scary. Char rubbed his forehead and it took him a long time to react. After all, in the original One Piece, the character of Emporio Ivankov can be said to be very important in the top, and he helped Luffy through difficulties many times. His strength is also very strong, and Char has experienced this personally. If it was Char who had just debuted before, he would not be able to withstand this attack at all. In the original One Piece, Emporio Ivankov's strongest attack even knocked Shichibukai's bear away. So it is not surprising that Emporio Ivankov is worth 1 million points. Just when Char was surprised, another shocking system ring rang. Beep beep. System prompt. The target person Emporio Ivankov has a lot of Haki on him, and it costs 20 million points to extract it. Advertisement Char's facial muscles twitched, but he still chose to extract it despite the pain in his heart. Instantly, the extremely powerful Haki power surged into his body, making Char's Haki stronger again. Emporio Ivankov's Haki can be said to be completely at the same level as Shiryu's Haki. As a result, Char's strength has become even stronger. Char clenched his fists in surprise, clearly feeling the surging power in his body. He now has an inexplicable sense of confidence. If he faces Kizaru again, thousands of energy can fully suppress Kizaru. Following that, another good news system message sounded in his mind. System prompt. Whether to use the simulated fruit ability to extract Emporio Ivankov's Hormone ability, it will cost 5 million points. Char was not surprised at all about this news, it was completely expected. So he decisively confirmed in his heart, and immediately a Hormone fruit appeared in the field of vision of everyone present. After seeing this devil fruit, the prisoners couldn't help but hold their breath. "Oh my god, can you make a fruit of creation?" The prisoners admired Char even more. Then, without exception, Char continued to throw the fruit to a prisoner at random, and ordered in an unquestionable tone, "Keep it safe." The prisoner immediately nodded vigorously like a chicken. However, the news that shocked him was not over yet, and another shocking news appeared immediately. Ding dee ding. System prompt. Nuo Zhao's prompt. Because the host's body is strong enough, you can spend 100 million points to transform your body, and from now on your body can accommodate 2 devil fruit abilities. Ding dee ding. System prompt. Because the host's body is strong enough, you can spend 100 million points to transform your body, and from now on your body can accommodate 2 devil fruit abilities. Char's body trembled with excitement.
The system actually has this function, which is a pleasant surprise. Just thinking about it makes me feel so happy. If I can have two heaven-defying devil abilities at the same time, is there anyone in the new world who can stop him? In the previous life, only Blackbeard had two fruit abilities, and Blackbeard with two heaven-defying abilities has become the Four of the Emperors, gaining extremely high prestige. But after hearing the 100 million points required, it was like pouring cold water on him. 100 million points, my god, Char couldn't help but groan in distress. 138 Luffy and Impel down because he killed too many prisoners and prison officers of Impel down. Char didn't know how many points he had. So Char asked silently in his heart, System, how many points do I have now? Soon the system sent a message, System prompt. You currently have 80 million points. Char touched his chin and thought, there are still 20 million points? This is a difficult level. However, as long as all the criminals of level 6 are killed, there will be more than 100 million points. Thinking of this, Char couldn't help but tremble with excitement, and the fighting spirit in his eyes was ignited again. Then Char's sharp eyes swept around, and he waved his arms excitedly and said, Brothers, follow me to level 6. Everyone's face suddenly showed fear, and everyone's body trembled violently as if struck by lightning, and their hearts were even more shocked. What kind of joke is this? Let them go to level 6. Isn't this courting death? That's level 6, the scariest place in Impel Down, and the place with the most and strongest guards. If they go to such a place, with their strength, they will probably die after a while. Although they have many concerns, they still choose to follow Char, because there is no other choice. At this time in level 6, because of Char's sweep, countless pillars that maintain the internal structure of Impel Down collapsed, so the people in level 6 who were below were a little surprised. Compared with Ace who looked calm, Jinbei's expression obviously fluctuated, and he couldn't hide the surprise in his eyes. Jinbei said in disbelief, I didn't expect that Impel Down, which is called the Iron Wall, would also have a prison break. At this time, Ace seemed to sense something, and suddenly raised his head and looked up. An inexplicable light flashed in his eyes, and his eyes seemed to look through the ceiling above, and he murmured, Luffy, are you here? At the same time, Straw Hat Luffy and the other three encountered an unprecedented crisis. After deciding who to go to Impel Down, Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy walked nervously with majestic steps into Impel Down, which frightened countless pirates. However, after entering Impel Down, Luffy and the other three soon found that it was not as described by the outside world. There was no prisoner, no prison guard, and there were remnants of corpses everywhere. It looked like a fierce battle. Although there were many questions, Luffy and the other three quickly moved forward. Soon they had reached IV-4. No one intercepted them during the process, and every place was filled with strange atmosphere. Sanji smoked a cigarette quietly, looked around, and said in a low voice, This place is very strange. Zoro rarely refuted Sanji, but nodded in agreement. Luffy pressed his straw hat and said in a deep voice, There is no time to talk about this, let's go quickly. Sanji and Zoro nodded, both of them had unprecedented solemnity on their faces. Straw Hat, it's been a long time since we last met.
Smoker, who had just rushed over from the naval headquarters, was holding his special 10-handed weapon, pointing at Straw Hat Luffy and others with an excited expression. In front of him were the marine soldiers led by Tashigi.
Luffy and others turned around at the speed of sound, clenched their fists tightly, and took their respective fighting positions as if facing a powerful enemy. Smoker took the lead, aiming at Luffy. After his whole body turned into smoke, he approached Luffy at a gust of wind speed, and then swung a stick without hesitation. Luffy, with steam coming out of his whole body, decisively used the second gear and blocked Smoker's attack with his fists. Neither side could do anything to the other. A hint of coldness flashed in Zoro's eyes, and the sharp sound of the scabbard sounded. Just as he was about to launch an offensive against Smoker, a figure quickly approached him, and with a flash of white light, an extremely terrifying sword had already reached Zoro's side. Zoro's hair stood up in vain. His swordsman instincts told him of the impending danger. His body fought back. Zoro turned around gracefully and blocked the sword of the attacker, who was Tashigi. Tashigi said firmly with a familiar face, I will never let you go, Roronoa Zoro. Both his tone and face were very similar to Zoro's childhood friend, and it was because of this that Zoro could not exert his full strength. Zoro gritted his teeth and said, You be ************* D. Luffy and Zoro encountered strong enemies one after another, and Sanji was no exception. At this time, Sanji was facing a large group of murderous marine soldiers, among whom was a very difficult marine major who could use Haki. The marine major pointed at Sanji emotionally and said sternly, Kill. After the major gave the order, all the soldiers attacked Sanji in unison. From all aspects, it can be seen that this group of marine soldiers did have strong combat power. But Sanji was not afraid at all. The next moment, his feet were wrapped in powerful flames. Devil Wind Kick, the highest level of minced meat. The next moment, Sanji stared at his feet and swung his feet wrapped in intense heat at the marine soldiers rushing towards him like a raging storm. With a harsh sound like tearing the air, these marine soldiers had no chance to dodge and were hit hard. Go to hell. How could the marine major watch his beloved subordinates being defeated by Sanji one by one? He finally lost his patience and attacked Sanji suddenly. Sanji snorted coldly, and his straight legs were filled with even stronger heat. The bald head like a heavy axe chopped at the Marine Major. But this Marine Major was not a simple person. He blocked Sanji's attack with a light move of the sword filled with Haki. The Straw Hat Pirates now were not the same as they would be 2 years later, where everyone would know Haki. And they knew nothing about Haki until now. So when Sanji saw this Marine Major blocking his attack, he couldn't help but be surprised. Sanji, who didn't know this was Haki, once suspected that this Marine Major was a demon fruit power. At the same time, a group of uninvited guests came to the periphery of Impel Down. If the people of the Whitebeard Pirates were here, they would definitely recognize who the strange uncle leading them was. The strange uncle put his hands on his waist and laughed at Impel Down, with a bit of madness on his face. Yes, this person is the famous Blackbeard. Char originally thought that he would ruin the plot so that Luffy would not make a scene in Impel Down as in the original story. He thought that the Straw Hat Pirates would not go to Impel Down and there would be no Impel Down turmoil. But he did not think that although he changed Luffy's route, he did not change the original story of Blackbeard coming to Impel Down. 139 Hannibal takes action. Just like that, the fateful moment is about to happen. The two men who wanted to increase their power in Impel Down were about to meet for the first time in their lives. Hannibal, who didn't know that another uninvited guest had arrived, stared at Char in the surveillance portrait in amazement. In the picture, Char was instantly knocking down all the guards in IV-6 with an absolute difference in strength. Hannibal, who was in the surveillance room, saw this scene and felt that his heart was about to stop. Originally, in his plan, he had his men drag Char and his prisoners here, and then wait for naval headquarters to send reinforcements. This was Hannibal's strategy. But he didn't expect that those prison beasts and guards who should be proud of were so vulnerable in Char's hands. What made Hannibal even more tearful was that there was really no one left. In this situation where all combat power was lost, he could only take action himself. When Hannibal thought that if he didn't manage this matter well, his official hat would definitely fall off in a minute. Hannibal didn't want to lose the position of warden that he had obtained with great difficulty. He must do his best to keep this hat. Yes. Hannibal, whose fighting spirit soared, was in everyone's eyes. They couldn't help but take a deep breath. Is this still the same Hannibal with hanging ears and dangling ears? This is not right. This is a fake Hannibal. Just when the warden Hannibal decided to fight in person, IV-6 had completely become a bloody hell. The walls were covered with blood and the whole place was filled with the smell of blood. Except for the two core characters, Ace and Jinbei, everyone else was killed by Char. This also included a number of powerful pirates who were recruited by Blackbeard in the original work. It stands to reason that Char couldn't defeat these powerful pirates who were extraordinary and had a certain position in the Blackbeard Pirates so easily. Advertisement. All of this is thanks to Impel Down's good prison security. The prisoners locked tightly by Seastone are completely helpless, in front of Char, who has powerful physical skills Haki. The prisoners in IV-6 are not ordinary pirates. They are all extremely evil pirates with great reputation in the Grand Line and even the New World. Naturally, their points will not be much less, but I didn't expect that the total number of points would be as high as 80 million. This astonishing number made Char dumbfounded. Now his points are as high as 140 million, which can fully develop his physical fitness to accommodate two fruit abilities. However, he put this happy thing aside for now. The most urgent thing is how to deal with the two people in front of him. Fire Fist Ace, this person must not be killed, because this person is the powder keg of the top battle. If something happens to him and he doesn't show up at the naval headquarters, it is very likely that Whitebeard will not start a war to save Ace. The next thing is Jinbei. This person has always been the most popular 10th member of the Straw Hat Pirates in the original One Piece, and he is very loyal, so he has many fans in later generations. Jinbei is one of them. In this pirate world where everyone cheats and deceives, there are not many pirates like Jinbei who are loyal. Besides, Char now needs subordinates like Jinbei who are loyal and will not betray him, not those who have strong strength but are ready to stab him in the back with betrayal in their hearts. Thinking of this, Char's tone became sincere, and he lowered his head and invited again. Jinbei, are you willing to be my crew member? Jinbei answered without hesitation. Get lost. It was a completely thoughtless answer. Although Char was mentally prepared, he still felt a little sad. But it was also because of this that Char wanted Jinbei's service even more. So Char's eyes flashed with inspiration, and he said in a low voice, Jinbei, as long as you agree to be my subordinate, I am willing to rescue Ace. Jinbei's eye sockets suddenly expanded, and a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. At this time, the face of the distraught Ace changed, like a volcano about to erupt, and he said angrily, Dulong, don't think of using me to force Jinbei to agree to your unreasonable request. Jinbei, don't worry about me. Jinbei remained silent, and seemed to be persuaded. Seeing Jinbei like this, Char showed ecstasy. Seeing this, Ace, who was standing by, became even more anxious. He couldn't bear to see a good person like Jinbei sacrifice his most important thing, freedom, because of him. Ace's body kept struggling, with a burning anger in his eyes, and he gritted his teeth and said, Jinbei, listen to me. I am a dying man, you must not put your life on me. Jinbei's face was uncertain, as if he was about to make a difficult decision. At this moment, a man in prison clothes quickly trotted to Sha Ya's side and said something in his ear. Sha Ya's face suddenly changed, and the coldness in his eyes flashed away. Sha Ya's face was extremely gloomy, and his tone was cold. It seems that today's matter can't be done. Forget it, let's let you go today. As soon as the voice fell, the whole person seemed to leave here as if he had no choice. Ace and Jinbei were confused, and they didn't understand what happened to make Sha so anxious. As Char walked, he asked the prisoners he had just recruited, "Are you sure the news is true?" Prisoner 187 nodded and whispered, "It's true, the warden is here." Char's mouth corners suddenly lifted, and he said in a low voice, "This Hanayabal, is he trying to challenge my majesty?" At the same time, in IV-5, where Char's followers were. Before, Char considered that the pirates in IV-6 were too powerful and might accidentally hurt his men in the process of fighting, so he let this group of prisoners stay in IV-5, and Char chose to go to IV-6 alone. Not long after Char went to IV-6, Hanayabal and the prison guards' reinforcements took the elevator that only the prison officials knew about and came to IV-5, and happened to meet the prisoners. The current warden and the prisoners naturally had nothing good to say, so they started fighting. Each prisoner has strong strength, the lowest one has at least several million Baileys, and the highest one is even a pirate with hundreds of millions of Baileys. After all, they are all imprisoned in this Impel down, so their strength is of course extraordinary. So Hanayabal and his prison guards suddenly had a headache and fell into a bitter battle. Although Hanayabal usually looks sloppy and gives people a sense of unreliability, but at this critical moment, Hanayabal had to be serious and show his true ability. 140 The warden's death. Hanayabal waved his long knife and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Die, die." The figure of the current warden rushed around in the crowd, cutting lives like a snake. The most recognized prisoner among the prisoners, Chang'en, who was called Big Fist in New World, appeared. After he saw that no one could stop Hanayabal's attack, Chang'en could no longer hold back and attacked Hanayabal. At the same time as the gruff anger came, Chang'en's fist rushed towards Hanayabal with the momentum of breaking the wind. Hanayabal showed a ferocious smile, and the ferocious man picked up the long knife to block the attack. "Your opponent is me," Chang'en said angrily. Facing the furious Chang'en, Hanayabal's face did not change at all. He was not suppressed by the amazing momentum displayed by Chang'en. Instead, his fighting spirit surged. His body exerted force in vain, and he blasted Chang'en away in a few days. Feeling the pain of the impact on his body, Chang'en couldn't help but spit out blood with a wow, and the whole person hit the wall hard like a cannonball. "Brother Chang'en. What, damn it, I didn't expect that the giant fist couldn't beat Hanayabal. It seems that we underestimated Hanayabal." Noticing the surprised eyes cast by 977, Hanayabal's face was no longer playful, but more serious than ever. He held the long knife tightly and said in a cold tone, "Come on, prisoners, let me see your strength." "That's what you said. Go ahead, kill him. Let him know that we are not easy to mess with. These prisoners are all extremely evil prisoners who can fight against hundreds of people outside. Even if they can't beat Hanayabal, it is enough to make Hanayabal exhausted." After a hard fight, Hanayabal exhaustedly stabbed the long knife into the ground, using it as a support point to prevent himself from falling. He was surrounded by prisoners who were covered in wounds and unconscious. But the number of prisoners was far more than that, and more prisoners were slowly approaching Hanayabal. While Hanayabal was fighting hard with these prisoners, the prison guards who came with him could no longer withstand the fierce attacks of these countless prisoners, and they all fell to the ground. Now Hanayabal was isolated and helpless, surrounded by countless ferocious enemies. Advertisement. Hanayabal tasted the blood flowing out of his mouth for the first time in a long time. After roughly wiping the blood from his mouth with his arm, he looked around with sharp eyes and sighed in his heart. "Is this the end for me? I thought you were so strong, but now it seems that I was wrong." Char's voice suddenly sounded from behind Hanayabal. Hanayabal turned his eyes to Char in disbelief, only to see that Char was showing a ghostly expression. How could this guy come? He is not here. When Hanayabal was about to open his mouth to say something, his chest suddenly lit up, as if a part of his body was missing, and his thoughts became increasingly blurred. "Ah, what happened to me?" This was Hanayabal's last thought, and then he fell to the ground quietly, with blood flowing out of his chest like a spring. Seeing Hanayabal fall, the prisoners cheered loudly. "Long live Lord Char! It is indeed a poisonous dragon, with great strength. It defeated Hanayabal with just one strike. This strength is really... It is really strong. No matter how many times I see this scene, I can't help but get scared. Fortunately, I chose to follow Lord Char, otherwise there would be more bodies lying there. What a group of pitiful guys, dare to offend our Lord Char." In Char's mind, the system bell rang several times. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill Impel down prison warden Hanayabal, get 9 million points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill Impel down prison warden Hanayabal, get 9 million points. Ding DD. System prompt. Kill Impel down prison warden Hanayabal, get 9 million points. Advertisement. After hearing this familiar system bell, Char smiled, showing a happy smile from the bottom of his heart, and got another worthless point. But it was a pity that most of the Impel down guards were knocked down by his prisoners, and they could not get points from the dead bodies. At this moment, a system ring suddenly sounded in Zhangya's mind. Ding ding ding. System prompt. Impel down warden Hanayabal has residual Haki on his body, do you want to absorb it? Char resolutely said yes in his heart, and a strong Haki poured into Char's body, making Char's power even stronger. Just when Char was happy, a phone in Hanayabal's trouser pocket suddenly rang. The whole audience was silent, and countless eyes were cast on the Den Mushi that was calling. Char frowned and picked up the phone and got up. Soon, a panting voice came from it. Is it Warden Hanayabal? It's bad, that Blackbeard. Here comes the advance, ah. Before he finished speaking, the voice stopped abruptly, as if he was attacked by someone. Char's face changed, and a bad premonition came to his mind. He said why he always felt that he had forgotten something very important, and now he finally remembered what it was. In the original work of One Piece, the pirates who came to Impel Down to make a scene were not only Straw Hat Luffy, but also the Blackbeard pirates. Wait, Char frowned. Why did he still feel that he had forgotten someone, a man who was weak but always had bad luck? Who did he forget? Behind Char, among the group of prisoners, there was a man with a red nose and a clown-like face who kept looking at Char. His eyes kept turning, and I don't know what he was thinking. At the same time in IV-6, Marine Rear Admiral Katakongo, who was the naval headquarters, was silently hiding his breath and hiding his figure in the dark, so that Char could not find his whereabouts. Katakongo is known for hiding his figure. In addition, Katakongo tried his best to hide himself this time, and he didn't even dare to breathe deeply, so it was normal that the card didn't find him. In addition to being able to perfectly hide his existence, Katakongo, who is not good at fighting, has another specialty, that is, good hearing. So that Katakongo, who is far away, can hear the voice coming from the Den Mushi. Shichibukai, Blackbeard is coming. Katakongo was surprised. Then he quickly adjusted his breath and fell into deep thought. 141 Blackbeard has arrived. At this time, the Straw Hat Pirates, who were fighting with Marines reinforcements in IV-4, once again encountered an unprecedented strong enemy. Blackbeard Pirates. The strange-looking Blackbeard saw Smoker and Luffy fighting fiercely, and laughed strangely, saying, "Hey, isn't this Smoker and Straw Hat? It's been a long time since we last met." As Blackbeard spoke, he activated his ability to create a black hole. "It's a pity that you will die here today," Blackbeard said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the dark swallowing ability suddenly rose. In IV-6, after thinking for a while, Char decided not to confront the strong enemies in IV-4 above head-on. First, he didn't want to cause extra life skills, and second, he really didn't want to interfere with the development of the plot. From the remaining guards, we learned that Smoker actually came to push 557 into the city, and he was fighting with Straw Hat Luffy at this time, which was something that had never happened in the original One Piece. According to the original plot, Smoker should have stayed directly at Naval Headquarters Marineford instead of going to Impel Down to help guard the city. It was obvious that the plot was changed because of him, Char. The plot changed because of his appearance was so strange that Char almost doubted his life. If this goes on, I'm afraid Summit War will never happen. Char now regrets killing most of the guards. In this case, who will be responsible for escorting the key to Naval Headquarters, Ace? Thinking of this, Char couldn't help but hold his forehead with a painful look. Advertisement, forget it, forget it. No matter whether Summit War happens or not, this trip to Impel Down is enough to make him rich. First, he devoured the powerful masters like the S********* King and Hanayabal, and then the notorious pirates of V6 who would later serve as subordinates of the Blackbeard pirates. This has greatly increased Char's strength, and his points have reached 200 million. This is 200 million, which is simply an unimaginable height. Moreover, Char's strength has also ushered in a rapid increase. Now he is very confident that if he faces Kizaru again, he will definitely be able to keep Kizaru and will never let this D slip away from his hands. After figuring out everything, Char quickly gave everyone the order to retreat. After this order was passed down, the prisoners finally showed a smile of liberation from the bottom of their hearts. Most of the prisoners here were forced to follow Char under his coercive policy. Who here doesn't want to get out of this prison? Only fools would be willing to stay in such a place. Who wants to get out and meet the outside world? At first, some people doubted the authenticity of this matter. After all, Char's move from IV-1 to IV-6, coupled with the ruthless killing of most of the Impel Down guards, these actions undoubtedly looked like a destructive act in the eyes of everyone. In their eyes, it was like revenge. But they all guessed wrong. Char had only two goals in Impel Down. One was to gain many subordinates, and the second was to gain strong strength. This was something that could not be said anymore. However, Char's next move really made them dumbfounded. Char walked into the elevator with a majestic step, and said to them as if he was very surprised. "Let's go. Why are you still here?" In the end, these confused prisoners didn't know how they entered the elevator and left, because the number of prisoners was too large. There were hundreds of them, so they arrived in batches, which wasted a lot of time. During this empty time, John, who was standing next to Char, said, "My lord, don't you kill Ace? This will be a good opportunity for us." Char shook his head and said earnestly, "Not now." John nodded as if he understood. Advertisement, Jinbei. "Ace, I will let you go for now. Let's meet again on the big stage that is coming, and then you will have to make a choice." Luffy is far from being Blackbeard's opponent. He was beaten against the wall after just one encounter. At the same time, Zoro was beaten and scarred because of the intervention of Baggins from the Blackbeard pirates. Sanji was not much better, and was besieged by the remaining Blackbeard pirates. Faced with this extremely fierce attack, Sanji could only retreat again and again. At this time, Tashigi asked his boss Smoker, "What should we do?" Smoker held 2 cigars in his mouth and said in a low voice, "Blackbeard is one of the Shichibukai. He will not stop us from defending Impel down. Let them do it." The Straw Hat's head was within reach, but I gave it up. Although I am a little unwilling, there is nothing I can do. Tashigi sighed softly and said nothing more. At this time, Straw Hat Luffy used a rubber machine gun and attacked Blackbeard like a storm. Blackbeard chuckled and released dark water with both hands that made the ability users despair, instantly invalidating Luffy's rubber ability. Luffy's fist, which could not be straightened, just stayed in the air. Luffy's pupils shrank and he was a little surprised and said, "What kind of ability is this?" Blackbeard laughed strangely and said, "Do you think I will tell you, Straw Hat Luffy? I'll say it again. Are you really unwilling to join us? Otherwise, there is only one way to go, and that is death." In response to Blackbeard's enthusiastic invitation, Luffy launched another attack. Luffy bit his finger and said, "Second gear." The next moment, boiling steam came out of Luffy's whole body, and his skin turned red. Luffy was using actions to reject Blackbeard's invitation. Blackbeard saw this, and he didn't understand that Luffy was determined to fight him. So Blackbeard was furious and said, "Then don't blame me." The next moment, he stored extremely powerful dark power in his fist, and instantly dyed his fist black, as if this blow could penetrate any 2.1 hard object in the world. As long as Luffy came a few steps forward, his attack would fall. Blackbeard's eyes flashed with a cold murderous intent. Since the Straw Hat was not useful to him, he had to kill him. The people nearby were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They gave up fighting the enemy in front of them and focused their attention on the fierce clash between the two people. Rubber. Pistol. Luffy gritted his teeth and used his ultimate move. Blackbeard licked his lips excitedly and pushed forward the killing move he had prepared long ago. A right fist rushed straight towards Luffy, who was coming towards him. The powerful dark wave on the fist seemed to be able to swallow everything and then crush it into slag. The people around couldn't help but hold their breath. Smoker, who was biting 2 cigars, had an inexplicable light in his eyes. .142 Battle with Blackbeard and Luffy. Just when the two sides were about to collide fiercely again. The next moment, something unexpected happened. A shadow suddenly rushed in front of Straw Hat Luffy, and then with lightning speed, a straight and foolish punch fiercely collided with Blackbeard's outstretched right fist. With a bang, Blackbeard flew out with an unbelievable look on his face, and a human figure was knocked out of a wall. Everyone was shocked and their brains fell into a state of absent-mindedness. When they saw the person clearly, Smoker's face was a little pale, and Tashigi's face was also pale. It was obvious that they knew this person. All the Marines nearby saw this person coming and looked like they saw a ghost. The Straw Hat Pirates also knew this person. Luffy opened his eyes wide and blurted out. Char, Zoro and Sanji were also a little surprised to see this familiar face, as if the appearance of this person here surprised them extremely. "This person is Char." Char smiled brightly at Luffy and said, 25, long time no see, Straw Hat." Luffy scratched his head and said gratefully, "Ah, long time no see, thank you for saving us before." Char's mouth corner slightly raised, and said, "It's just a small matter, by the way, do you want to save Ace?" Luffy's eyes flashed with joy, and said, "Yes, Char, do you want to save Ace too?" Advertisement Char immediately looked as if it was just as expected, then shook his head and said shockingly, "I came here this time to stop you from moving forward." After hearing this, Luffy frowned and asked blankly, "Stop it?" Char nodded and said, "Because I can't let you save Ace." "Are you going to stop me too?" The second gear that had been restrained appeared again, and Luffy's body was steaming again, and his eyes were flashing with fighting spirit. No matter who it is, as long as he blocks his way forward, he must fight. Char smiled and said unmoved, "Oh, do you want to fight me?" Luffy said with a fierce fighting spirit, "Come on." Seeing that the two were about to fight, Sanji couldn't help but persuade them. "Luffy, calm down. Hey, you can't beat him." After the Sabody Islands incident, Zoro and Sanji knew who the man was who stopped Kizaru for them that day. They still remembered that they were very shocked at the time. They didn't expect that this man who was not related to them was the legendary Poisonous Dragon. Poisonous Dragon Char, worth 600 million bounty. Why Char was willing to stop Kizaru for them at the beginning, this question has not been figured out by anyone in the Straw Hat Pirates so far. But they did feel grateful to Char. If it weren't for Char's help, I'm afraid they would not be able to appear here safely. Besides, how bad can a man who can stop Marine Admiral Kizaru be? So this is why Sanji and Zoro persuaded Luffy to stop, because there is obviously a certain gap between Char and them in strength, and there is also a huge gratitude for salvation. Marines not far away saw this scene, and their eyes flashed with murderous intent. Facing the notorious Poison Dragon Char, they had no good feelings at all. So when Tashigi, who had a strong sense of justice, was about to draw his sword, Smoker quietly stopped him. When Tashigi looked at his boss blankly, his boss answered like this. "We can't beat him together," Smoker said with a calm expression. Facing the advice of the two crew members, Luffy had no intention of stopping the attack. Rubber, machine gun. The heavy rain of blows came at Char. However, Char was not afraid, but smiled gently. The next moment, the poison fruit was activated, and his whole body turned into venom. Luffy's fist instantly penetrated the liquid body of Char. As Luffy continued to bombard, the venom kept flying, but it seemed that Char was not hurt at all. Luffy suddenly felt a pain in his hands, so he retracted his fists and looked at them. As a result, both hands were covered with venom, and the venom was tightly attached to his body like chewing gum. What is this? Luffy screamed in pain. The pain brought to him by the venom was too intense, as if it was about to tear his body apart. Char, who had transformed from liquid into human form again, chuckled and said calmly, "Straw Hat, with your current strength, you can't beat him." "What do you care?" Luffy continued to attack Char without listening to his advice. This time, Char didn't turn into venom, but only used physical skills to dodge Luffy's fist, and then closed the distance between him and Straw Hat at a gust of wind. Advertisement. Then Char punched him with all his strength and ruthlessness, using 80% of his strength, enough to make Luffy feel better. Luffy seemed to have been hit by a strong impact, and instantly a wave of numb pain ran through his whole body. Luffy, who was hit by a huge fist, his body flew down like a kite with a broken string. Char continued to chase and hit him, his figure flashed, and he punched Luffy on the back of the neck, knocking him out. All this happened so quickly that everyone only felt a stack of afterimages flashing in their eyes. Char threw the unconscious Luffy to Sanji and said in a low voice, "Take him back. If you two insist on going forward to save Ace, then give it a try." There was a hidden threat in his tone. While saying this, several poisonous dragons with ferocious faces emerged from his body and stared at the two of them. Zoro and Sanji were stared at by these poisonous dragons, just like being stared at by some terrible ancient beast. They felt cold all over their bodies and their hearts were shocked. In the end, Zoro was the first to recover and said, "Why do you want to stop us from moving forward? Is it dangerous?" Facing Zoro's questioning, Char did not answer. Song looked at him quietly. Zoro and Sanji, who did not get a decent answer, looked at each other. After a brief eye contact, they unanimously decided to leave Impel down. In their opinion, Char, who saved their lives, would not harm them, so their first reaction was that there might be great dangers further down Impel down, so Char would not let them go forward. After thinking about it this way, things made sense. The two who had completely misunderstood Char's intentions did not say much and ran away at full speed. However, Zoro glanced at Smoker and Tashigi before leaving, and his eyes seemed to tell something. When the marine soldiers saw the Straw Hat pirates running away, they all drew their weapons and prepared to chase them. 143 Blackbeard's sneak attack. Char turned sideways to block their way forward, and smiled at them with a hideous smile, saying, "I don't want to kill you. Why do you really want to fight me?" The threat in his tone was so obvious that even a fool could see it. When the eyes of the marine soldiers swept over the poisonous dragon that emerged from Char's body, they subconsciously thought of Char's powerful skills that swept everything just now, and their hearts trembled. Everyone couldn't help but have a trace of fear in their eyes. Some marine soldiers were afraid of the terrifying power emitted by Char, and they couldn't help swallowing their saliva and took a few steps back. How is this possible? That's Blackbeard. The dark wave was so powerful that even my skin could feel it. That Char is really terrible. It's amazing that he can be unscathed under such an attack. Is this the famous poisonous dragon? No wonder such a man has a bounty of 600 million. Are we still opponents for such an enemy? It's really terrible. We are no match for such a person. Will this poisonous dragon cause us trouble later? You know, we are Marines and he is a pirate. Oh no, this poisonous dragon has killed Magellan and has the notoriety of massacring the Impel down garrison. No matter what, we must fulfill our justice and kill the poisonous dragon. What are you afraid of? We are Marines. Yes, we are Marines. How can we be afraid of a mere pirate? In comparison, their superiors seemed more imposing. Tashigi and Major Marine did not show fear, but showed an expression of eagerness to try. These two people have a strong sense of justice. In the dictionary of these two people who only know how to fulfill justice, there is no word, surrender. Advertisement. If Char dares to attack them, even if he loses his life, he will fight. At this time, Smoker swung his 10-handed weapon made of sea stone and said seriously, "Can I ask why you stopped Straw Hat Luffy and others from moving forward and not letting them save Ace?" In the final analysis, Smoker was cunning and saw through the weirdness of the matter at a glance. Char narrowed his eyes and was about to say something when he seemed to sense something from behind. The hair on his body stood up in vain, and a flash of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He turned around quickly. Blackbeard, who had been offline for a long time, suddenly attacked, and a dark light ball with a dangerous aura blasted straight at Char. It turned out that Blackbeard pretended to be unable to get up from the ground after being hit by Char, and looked like he was completely knocked out. In fact, Blackbeard used his eyes to let his crew members calm down and not attack for the time being. He thought it was not the right time to attack now, and he must wait for Char to show a flaw and launch a fierce sneak attack on him. So this is also the reason why the Blackbeard pirates stood still and did not avenge Blackbeard in time after Char knocked Blackbeard away. Now Blackbeard's active sneak attack silently sent a message to these crew members: it's time. Sniper Van Oka stood calmly in a place where he could use the sniper and aimed at Char, ready to shoot at any time. Baggins clenched his fists, and sparks flashed in his eyes. However, the strangest thing was Lafitte. As a staff officer, he also had good skills, but he seemed to be motionless. He stood there quietly like a stone statue with a strange expression, as if everything had nothing to do with him. At this moment, Char was caught off guard by Blackbeard's sneak attack. No matter how strong and cautious Char was, he did not expect Blackbeard to be so treacherous and lie dead for so long just for this moment of his attack. Oh no, it's too late. When Char turned around, his face was a little shocked. In his field of vision, Blackbeard's right fist filled with dark wave power was only a piece of paper away from his body. Advertisement. The next second, Blackbeard's right fist touched Char's body. The poisonous dragon that had been sticking out of Char's body seemed to have encountered a natural enemy and instantly escaped into Char's body. This was one of the abilities of Blackbeard's dark fruit. When the ability user touched Blackbeard's absolutely suppressed dark fruit, he would temporarily lose control of his own fruit, and Char would be no exception. Got it. Seeing that Char didn't move at all, his fist had already hit Char's chest. Blackbeard, who thought he had succeeded in the sneak attack, had a glimmer of pride in his eyes. However, the next moment, he couldn't be happy at all. His fist stayed on Char's chest. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't push Char. Blackbeard panicked all of a sudden. What the hell was going on? Didn't he hit Char? Why didn't Char fall down? At this time, Char smiled, and his smile was inexplicably mocking, which made Blackbeard even more arrogant. Lafitte, the brain trust of the Blackbeard pirates, immediately saw that Blackbeard's attack was ineffective against Char. A flash of disbelief flashed in his eyes, and then he quickly recovered. He hurriedly reminded, "Captain, step back quickly, your attack has no effect at all." Blackbeard's face changed, and he stepped back a few steps with a quick look on his face, his eyes fixed on Char. When Blackbeard's eyes swept across the steel-colored armor on Char's chest, Blackbeard suddenly realized why his attack had no effect on Char. At this time, Burgess said what Blackbeard was shocked about, and exclaimed, "How can there be such a strong armed color Haki?" That's right, the reason why Blackbeard's, King Lee's, attack did not hurt Char at all was because Char reacted in time and attached the extremely powerful armed color Haki to his chest. The crew members of the Blackbeard pirates also reacted, their faces darkened. It seemed that they had provoked a great master. This poisonous dragon was not as simple as they imagined. The marine soldiers not far away were very panicked. They were not as calm as the Blackbeard pirates. Everyone was shocked. The marine major took a few steps back and looked at Char with fear. The two cigars that Smoker had been holding tightly fell to the ground. Tashiji's hand, which was originally on the scabbard, accidentally loosened. Not to mention that everyone was shocked that Char's Haki was so strong that it could withstand Blackbeard's full-strength attack. Even Char himself was a little surprised. 144 Smoker. It turned out that his Haki had become so strong without him noticing. This really surprised Char, but then he thought about it. Since he entered Impel down, he had killed countless Haki masters, which was enough to make his Haki become like a ghost. Almost all the prisoners in IV-5 had Haki. The perverts in the S************ kingdom also had powerful Haki. Not to mention the notorious pirates in IV-6. One by one, they really didn't qualify to be in IV-6 without Haki. And top masters like the S********* king made Char's Haki reach an unimaginable height. At this time, since that attack didn't work, Blackbeard fell into a state of shock. He had been a pirate for so many times, but this was the second time he encountered such a situation. The first time he encountered such a situation was from Whitebeard, and that was when Whitebeard was young, not the old Whitebeard now. Could it be that this poisonous dragon has the same terrifying Haki cultivation and physical skills as Whitebeard in his youth? Thinking of this, Blackbeard couldn't help but feel a little confused. Blackbeard, who is cautious by nature, doesn't want to fight with a master like Char, not to mention that he has a carefully planned plan next, which may waste too much time and plan here. I must hurry to IV-6 to recruit more partners. Blackbeard thought to himself, who was eager to increase his partners. Until now, Blackbeard didn't know that all the prisoners in IV-6 except Ace and Jinbei had been ruthlessly and indiscriminately slaughtered by Char. Char seemed to ignore the existence of Blackbeard's pirate group, and was not afraid that Blackbeard would attack him again. He turned around and said to Smoker and others, "You should leave here as soon as possible, and go to IV-6 quickly." The Marines looked a little panicked. Did something happen to the place where the Fire Fist Ace was located, V6? Smoker relit his cigar and was about to speak. Tashigi stepped forward and said righteously, "Are you going to let this pirate worth 600 million leave Impel down safely?" After Tashigi stepped forward, the Marines screamed. Advertisement. That's right. Don't try to threaten us, we fight for justice. That's right, we fight for justice. Do you think that your strength can make our justice succumb to your tyranny? I tell you, this is impossible. Don't underestimate us, Poison Dragon Char. I would rather die than surrender. I just want to fight. Come on, Dragon, today, either you die or I die. Tashigi is right. We can't just watch you, a pirate worth 600 million, leave peacefully. You are simply insulting our justice. That's right, that's right. Go to hell, Poison Dragon. Today is the day you die, and tomorrow is the day you die, ha 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 ha.
Major Marine, who was as righteous as Tashigi, snorted coldly, with a clear murderous intent in his eyes, and said in a low voice, "Where do you think this is?" "This is Impel Down, don't underestimate us." Char said quietly. "Do you still have a choice? To be honest, you are no match for me alone."
Tashigi and others were speechless. Yes, there is a huge gap in strength. Even if they go together, they may not be able to beat the man in front of them. They don't have the terrifying strength of Blackbeard, let alone the ability to invalidate the fruit. If Char uses the power of venom on them, they can't resist at all.
Imagine how terrifying it would be if the poisonous dragon roared towards them.
However, the next moment, Tashigi and others instantly realized that Char's confidence was far more than that. Char clapped his hands happily, and prisoners with malicious faces came from all directions. Each of them had strong muscles and physiques, and the powerful aura emanating from their bodies made people feel even more grateful. And this number of people, is it too much? Have all the prisoners in Impel Down been released? When everyone thought of this, they suddenly figured out something. Then every marine present, even Blackbeard's pirate group on the side, showed a look of shock. Wait, when they arrived here IV4, they found that the prisoners in the first 3 levels had disappeared, and the prison seemed to be broken. Now these prisoners appear here strangely, then everything makes sense. Asterisk 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 0, this Char is the one who caused all this.
Advertisement. The newly arrived Blackbeard pirates had a look of sudden enlightenment on their faces, naively thinking that only the prisoners in the first 3 levels were released. However, the Marines didn't think so. Fear appeared on every face, and the eyes showed an unconcealable tension. The body trembled with anger and fear. Because they were Marines, and some people often came to Impel Down for missions, they were familiar with some of the prisoners. When they saw that there were some well-known IV4 notorious pirates here, they swallowed nervously.
Tashigi's righteous look before was gone, replaced by an unprecedented solemn look. 0. However, they didn't expect that the source of the prisoners here was far more than IV4.
Among the people here, only Smoker knew the source of these prisoners, and his face turned extremely livid.
Even though Smoker had experienced countless storms, he couldn't help but jump in fear when he realized the seriousness of the matter. Since Magellan was killed, the bigwigs on Marine temporarily transferred Smoker here to do temporary guard work. The reason why Smoker didn't show up immediately when Char, Luffy and others came here was because he had some things to confirm at Marineford before, so he had to leave and guard Impel Down for a while.
So Smoker knew the origins of these prisoners better than everyone present.
He could see at a glance that there were a few familiar faces among them. In addition to some scumbag pirates who looked like IV3 or above, there were also some notorious pirate prisoners of IV4, and even more terrifying and powerful IV5 prisoners. Did this Char release all the prisoners in Impel Down? Smoker couldn't help but mutter a few words, and suddenly worried about the situation of IV6. Since even the prisoners of IV5 have been released, what about IV6? There is Ace of Fire Fist there, and Jinbei of Shichibukai, some pirates who have committed more crimes than the stars in the sky. Where are they? 145 Alliance Blackbeard, a prisoner, suddenly pointed at Smoker and said, "Hey, isn't this the Smoker? How come he finally came to see us?" "Yes, it's really him. I didn't expect him to show up here." Tisk tisk tisk. I didn't expect that there would be a day when I could talk to him face to face. Smoker, you arrested me and brought me here. I have always held this grudge in my heart, and I will never let you go this time. I must beat you to death. You be asterisk 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 D. He. This is thanks to the leader. If he hadn't released us, wouldn't we have this opportunity? Smoker, didn't expect that I would not come out of that dark dungeon. He. Smoker, let's fight to the death here today. Either you die or I die. The prisoners who recognized Smoker's enemy spoke out one after another, and Char said lightly, "Be quiet." At this moment, Char was like an emperor who held the power of life and death, and these prisoners shut up obediently. Smoker's face became even more livid, and it was obvious that the shouting of the famous prisoner 25 completely confirmed his thoughts. What does this Char mean? Following Smoker for many years, Tashigi obviously recognized that some of the people here were prisoners from IV5. His face became pale. Smoker became more and more uneasy, and an ominous premonition emerged. He clenched his hands tightly and shouted to Char, "Dulong, what do you mean? Why did you release even the prisoners from IV5? As soon as these words came out, the Marine soldiers were shocked, and their already shocked faces became even more shocked. The Blackbeard pirates and others couldn't help but be surprised. They only then realized that there were prisoners from IV5 among the prisoners in front of them. Blackbeard, who was determined to recruit powerful partners in Impel Down, frowned.
He always felt that something was wrong. As Lafitte, the military officer of the Blackbeard pirates, couldn't help but smile bitterly under his hood.
With his extraordinary wisdom, he figured out everything in a flash. Advertisement: these prisoners were so obedient in front of Char, and it was obvious that they had surrendered to Char. In addition, the prisoners who originally belonged to LV1 ran here to LV4 for some reason, instead of escaping directly to experience the long-lost fresh air. It was obvious that they came here with someone. Lafitte, who guessed everything in a flash, had a flash of vigilance in his eyes. He whispered in Blackbeard's ear and told Blackbeard all the facts he guessed. Blackbeard's face suddenly changed, and he looked at Char with a very complicated look. This poisonous dragon actually has the same idea as me. While Blackbeard couldn't help but feel a sense of fear in his heart, he felt a sense of knowing each other, and a feeling of meeting a worthy opponent. After noticing Blackbeard's surprised look, Char glanced at him with a tacit understanding, and then quickly turned his eyes back Smoker. Char did not answer Smoker's question directly, but said calmly, "Before asking me this question, please go back to IV6 and see what happened, otherwise it will be too late for everything." Here, Char deliberately made his words complicated, wanting Smoker and others to think wrongly, so that they would go back to level 6, so that they could protect the key to open the Summit War, the Fire Fist Ace. What will happen next, even Char, a fan of the original One Piece, doesn't know. Luffy left, Shichibukai Lausha and the demon were killed by him, and Jinbei, who originally helped Luffy and others, failed to escape as in the original. In addition, Magellan of Impel Down and Shiryu of Rain were killed by him, so that Smoker, who should not have appeared here. The prisoners who originally followed Buggy the Clown closely now changed their ways and followed him. Now Blackbeard was stopped by him here and could not go to IV6. The original plot direction has been destroyed by Char, the time traveler, to the point that it is impossible to see the original appearance. In the original One Piece, at this time, Ace should have been escorted to Marineford, instead of still waiting for death quietly in IV6. So what Char has to do now is to use all resources to protect the original plot. Advertisement Char stabbed him again, so that Smoker would give up and fight him, and said, "If you really don't go, that person will be rescued." Smoker and Marine heard this, and a hint of coldness flashed in their eyes. Smoker clenched his hands even tighter, and an indescribable anger burst out in his heart. Smoker subconsciously believed what Char said. If what Char said was true, there might be more than just Char and Blackbeard in this Impel Down, and there might be someone else with ulterior motives. Blackbeard's pirate group naturally understood what Char said, and knew who Char was referring to. At the same time, they had the same deep doubts as Smoker. Could there be other forces in this Impel Down? And the goal was to save Ace? After a while, Smoker made a decision and snorted unwillingly, saying in a cold tone, "See you later." As soon as the voice fell, he left here impatiently. Tashigi followed without hesitation. The other Marine soldiers followed after a glance, including the Marine Major who had been fighting with Sanji for a while. Smoker held a very high status in the hearts of the 327 soldiers. They might not listen to other superiors, but they had to take the orders issued by Smoker seriously. After Smoker and others left, Char turned his attention to Blackbeard and others not far away. Char raised his lips slightly and said shockingly, "Blackbeard, do you want to join forces with me?" As soon as these words came out, the crew of the Blackbeard pirates was stunned. The prisoners who had never heard of Char's plan were also slightly stunned. Their first reaction was to wonder if Char was half joking to ease the atmosphere. Blackbeard's eyes flashed with an incredible look, as if he was surprised by Char's invitation to form an alliance, but thinking that he would need a lot of strength and allies for the next plan, he became a little interested. Blackbeard laughed strangely and said, "Oh, Char, the poisonous dragon, wants to form an alliance with me. Are you kidding me?" Char flashed a wicked smile on his face and sneered, "I'm not kidding.
This is true. It's up to you whether you believe me or not."
Blackbeard, the ruthless character, had a cold look in his eyes. He was still not moved by Char's words and said in a cold tone, "It is often said that allies have common interests. So, what are the common interests between you and me?" 146 Blackbeard's plan. Char's sharp eyes seemed to penetrate Blackbeard's body.
He suddenly raised his mouth and said, "To be honest, I have seen through your plan a long time ago. I am afraid that even you cannot say that you have full control over your next plan."
There was a hint of confidence in his tone, as if he was determined to make Blackbeard. Blackbeard was frightened by Char's confident words, and then he suppressed his uneasiness and tried his best to calm himself down. At this time, Blackbeard roared in his heart. "Impossible! How could this poisonous dragon know my next plan? My plan should be perfect for this poison. The dragon will definitely not know what I am thinking. It must be testing my background." Blackbeard, who thought he had guessed Char's goal, laughed a few times, showing a ghostly look, and said in a low voice, Hey, this is very interesting. Then tell me, what is my plan?" "Seize Whitebeard's shock fruit, right?" Char's expression was calm, and he spoke Blackbeard's overall plan. Even the most cunning old fox couldn't help but be surprised at this moment, and Blackbeard's eyes were full of astonishment. Char's words penetrated deeply into his heart like poison. Does this Char have the mind-reading fruit? If Char hadn't revealed the power of his poison fruit, Blackbeard would probably doubt whether he had a mind-reading fruit that could see through other people's thoughts. Because this was too shocking. This Char actually knew the target he was aiming at. Does this mean that he could see his previous actions? If so, it would be too incredible. No, the poison dragon should have guessed it. This guess flashed through Blackbeard's mind for a moment, and Blackbeard immediately killed this idea in his mind. Because it's impossible, who would be so crazy to say his real goal so accurately and directly? Advertisement. I'm afraid this Char really knows Blackbeard's ultimate goal, to use dark fruit to seize Whitebeard's shock fruit. Not to mention that only Blackbeard showed astonishment, even his crew members showed shock without exception, their faces full of disbelief. The simple-minded and muscular Baggins blurted out without any reservation, not thinking about the concealment of this matter at all. How did you know it? Compared with the simple-minded and muscular Baggins, Lafitte and Van Oka were calm, but the slight twitch at the corners of their mouths undoubtedly exposed their panic at the moment. As the ship's doctor, Poison Q did not show any surprise at all, and rode the unknown creature calmly and freely. Based on the reaction of Blackbeard and his group, it is obvious that Char has already revealed their real target. Among the prisoners, there was an uproar. Hey, it can't be true, that Blackbeard's target is actually Whitebeard. This can't be true, it's really jumping. That's Whitebeard, one of the Four Emperors. Is there something wrong, or did I hear it wrong? This is simply an unimaginable and absurd thing. Yeah, this is impossible. Yes, we must have made a mistake, we must be hallucinating. At this time, a man with a red nose kept clicking his tongue and said with wide eyes, but how did Char see Blackbeard's plan? A man standing next to him sighed in the same way, saying, yeah, I just thought of this. Logically, Blackbeard's plan should be very covert so that he could see through the shit of the poisonous dragon. The man with a red nose quietly looked at the man who sighed in the same way as him, and slowly said, what's your name? Mr. 3, you can call me that. The man with a strange head with the number 3 on his head pondered for a while and said. The man with a red nose smiled brightly and said, my name is Buggy, it's great to meet you, Mr. 3. Mr. 3 also smiled happily from the bottom of his heart and stretched out his hand for Buggy to shake hands. Seeing Mr. 3's outstretched hand, Buggy stretched out his hand without hesitation and shook that hand tightly. If someone who didn't know anything about it would probably think that these two people were good friends who had known each other for many years. Char, who was not far away, didn't pay attention to the situation of these two brothers in distress, but quietly watched. Blackbeard and the others said nothing, as if the commotion caused by his words had nothing to do with him. Advertisement Blackbeard's face was livid, and he shouted at the top of his lungs. What are you talking about? How is it possible to aim at Whitebeard? Char smiled, a look of triumph flashed in his eyes, and nodded. Indeed, I was just joking, don't take it so seriously. Char's purpose was to cause panic among Blackbeard and the others, so that they would understand that he, Char, knew their real weakness, and thus understood that he could only choose to form an alliance with him now. Blackbeard's facial muscles twitched slightly, and he laughed. Dulong, you are really something, always telling me these jokes. Look, your subordinates have misunderstood. After all, Blackbeard, who still had the demeanor of a tyrant, immediately restored his original demeanor, and seemed to be very familiar with Char and chatted and laughed. No one could see the lie that Blackbeard had just briefly revealed. After everyone saw Char say it was a joke, Blackbeard showed a nonchalant look at the same time, which made everyone a little confused. Was it really a joke? It seems to be a joke. Mala Jiao, yes, that kind of thing is scary to think about. Wow, Blackbeard is good at acting, so realistic that I almost believed it. Ha, this is a very funny joke, it really made me laugh to death. The prisoners who doubted the authenticity of the matter laughed full of doubts at the first time. It seems that Blackbeard's acting was enough to fool these prisoners. However, this is only the majority of prisoners. There are still quite a few prisoners with a gleam in their eyes. Which pirate imprisoned in Impel down is a simple person? Buggy the Clown and Mr. 3, who had just met him not long ago, were also among the quite astute prisoners. They couldn't help but wonder if this was really a joke. After all, the panic and shock that the Blackbeard pirates had just shown were from the bottom of their hearts. It didn't seem like they were acting. 147 leave Impel down. Char suddenly extended his hand and once again made a sincere invitation to Blackbeard, saying, how about it, Blackbeard, do you want to lie with me? Blackbeard laughed strangely, and a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. He didn't understand that Char was threatening him, but now he could only stretch out his hand and shake hands with Char. There was no way at all, he couldn't beat this poisonous dragon. Unable to beat and unable to talk, Blackbeard's heart was broken. Char smiled with satisfaction, and said in a calm tone, then, next I hope you can retreat from Impel down. Blackbeard's face changed. He came to Impel down with great difficulty, and his purpose was to recruit partners. How could he retreat so easily? At this time, Blackbeard suddenly remembered the amazing fact that Lafitte had told him before. It was very likely that all the prisoners so far had been released by this poisonous dragon. Lafitte is the most intelligent person in the Blackbeard pirates, and he is very loyal to him. Otherwise, Blackbeard would have driven away the person who said such unimaginable words. But as long as he thought of Char's almost invincible strength and the secrets he held that could ruin his plan, Blackbeard had to hesitate. But now, under the pressure of Char, Blackbeard could only swallow his anger. He must get back at Whitebeard in the future. As long as Lousy can get Whitebeard's shock fruit, then you poisonous dragon, I will torture you. Blackbeard roared in his heart. Although he was roaring in anger in his heart, Blackbeard nodded calmly on the surface, and said in a normal manner. Well, I came to Impel down this time just to see some things. Now that I have seen the things, I should go too. Char's mouth curled up slightly, and he made a sign to Blackbeard. As allies, why don't we walk together? It was obvious that Char was worried that Blackbeard would come back, so he said this. Blackbeard forced a smile and said, Okay, we are the best allies, this kind of thing is only natural. Just as the two of them walked side by side, their respective subordinates started a secret competition. Advertisement, you, are Baggins? Known as the Big Fist? John tensed his body, licked his lips a little excitedly. CFEG. And his sharp eyes kept looking at Baggins' hard body. After seeing the newcomer, Baggins of Blackbeard's pirate group looked disdainful and cold for a week without saying a word. In the end, both parties left Impel down peacefully and harmoniously and boarded their respective ships. In a room, Blackbeard and Char were talking face to face. Faced with the strong request for Blackbeard to join the war immediately, Blackbeard immediately showed a sullen look on his face, lowered his voice, and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear. I can't just appear in this war, otherwise those people will kill me with jealous eyes. Char said. I don't care so much, how'd I know if you will betray me? Blackbeard's facial muscles twitched, and he rubbed his forehead in pain. Why is this Char so stubborn? At this time, 10 men walked into the room. This man was Lafitte, the chief military strategist of the Blackbeard pirates. Lafitte first bowed elegantly and unrestrainedly, and said in a gentle tone. I heard what you two said just now, I wonder if you two mind? Blackbeard chuckled, and Char's mouth curled up slightly. When Lafitte saw that the two big guys didn't say anything, he realized that they didn't care about this matter that he thought was very important, so he smiled awkwardly and said in a low voice. Then, I want to know one thing. I wonder if Lord Char is willing to answer it in person? Char frowned and said. Go ahead. That is, what is your purpose in participating in the Summit War? After Lafitte finished speaking, his eyes were fixed on Char. Blackbeard immediately became a different person, his eyes became very sharp, and he cast his sharp eyes on Char. Char said seriously. I want to take Kizaru's head. Advertisement after this, Blackbeard and Lafitte couldn't help but be moved and took a breath. Take Kizaru of Marine Admiral. This is too much. Then the two of them compared their respective goals in their hearts and found that everyone's goals were actually about the same powerful existence. One is Whitebeard, the other is Kizaru. Lafitte couldn't help but ask curiously, why do you want to kill Kizaru? Char snorted coldly and said, Kizaru and I have some personal grudges that must be resolved. Char didn't want to expose so quickly that he could absorb other people's fruits just like Blackbeard. If this matter was exposed, it would definitely bring him some unnecessary trouble. Lafitte and Blackbeard looked at each other, and they could see the speechless look in each other's eyes. Char's words were indeed impeccable. As a Marine Admiral, Kizaru would naturally cause a lot of pirate hatred, so it made sense for Char to kill him for this. Lafitte pondered for a while and said, I think you should know that the Whitebeard pirates are now particularly hateful to us. If we take action in advance, then Whitebeard will definitely divide his forces to fight with me. So we must appear at the end. Char said without hesitation, okay. Lafitte and Blackbeard were stunned. Didn't you just say that you must appear in advance? Otherwise, you would not feel at ease. Char seemed to know their doubts and said, but I have a condition, you must agree to it. This time Blackbeard answered first, you say it. Char crossed his legs and said, after the matter is done, you must give me 1 billion Baileys. Otherwise, I will hunt you down to the ends of the earth. Lafitte's mouth twitched constantly. 1 billion Baileys, do you think it's just taken out casually? Blackbeard, who was thinking about how to join the Four Emperors, didn't think it was a big deal. Naturally, after the matter was done, he got Whitebeard's shock fruit. At that time, let alone 1 billion Baileys, he could get a bed even if he got 10 billion Baileys. But at that time, with the shock fruit, would he still be afraid of this little poisonous dragon? Blackbeard said calmly, okay, 1 billion Baileys will make our relationship better, which is not bad. A hint of coldness flashed across Char's eyes, and he warned, don't think you can fool me. Blackbeard said without a smile, how dare I fool you, ha ha ha. Lafitte beside him also laughed hypocritically. Finally, Char also laughed, and his smile was very bright. 148 Buggy's death. Finally, Char and Blackbeard reached a consensus and discussed some necessary matters. Both sides left very satisfied. Because most of the guards of Impel Down had been killed by Char and others, most of the ships belonging to Impel Down were taken away by Char as spoils of war. There were 5 well-equipped large ships in total, with a lot of shells and food on them, which was enough to make Char happy for a while. At this time, Char was looking at the list in front of him with surprise. The names written on the list were all the names of prisoners. Several big names were imprinted in his eyes. Buggy the Clown. Mr. 3. Bentham. Daz Bonus. These names were all originally in the original work of One Piece. It was because of their existence that Luffy's escape was so smooth. For some reason, Char's heart was filled with an unstoppable murderous intent. Buggy the Clown, a person who must have 2 minds, must be eradicated. Because Char would never tolerate people with 2 minds in his pirate group. In the original work, Mr. 2 and Mr. 3, who fought for Buggy and only cared about their own interests, were the same. These 2 must not be let go, and they must be rooted out. After Char made up his mind, he turned his attention to the 2 names at the end of the list. As for the last 2 names, Bentham and Daz Bonus. One values friendship and sacrifices himself for Luffy and fights Magellan. The other is a warmonger, a fanatic who only knows how to fight. And from the plot of the original work, this person is still a loyal minister and is relatively loyal to the distressed old sand. When Old Sand went to attack Whitebeard, this guy also went with him, and regardless of how strong the pirates in Whitebeard's pirate group were, he rashly fought with the captain-level masters. Just as Char was tapping the desk seriously and fell into deep thought. At this moment, there was a knock on the door, and Char frowned and said, "Come in."
Advertisement. Hugo, the second in command of the Great Sha pirates, walked into the room with heavy steps, with a very obvious anxious look on his face, and said, "There are several marine warships coming from the direction of naval headquarters. What should we do? Should we sink them?"
Char rolled his eyes and thought for a while, and said in a low voice, "I'm afraid these warships are responsible for escorting Ace to naval headquarters. Don't fight them head-on. Move the ships away so that they don't notice our existence. If they delay time and fail to escort Ace to naval headquarters, it will be bad." Hugo nodded, and seemed to have thought of something important, and asked quickly, "Do you need to notify Blackbeard?" Char snorted coldly, and said, "That guy is very smart. He has the same plan as me, and wants to make the next fire burn more fiercely. There is no need for us to remind him." Hugo hummed, and when he turned around and left the room, Char seemed to have made up his mind about something important, and called him with a gloomy face. "Wait." Hugo turned around and cast his astonished eyes on Char. Char sighed deeply and said, "Go and arrange for the clown's buggy and Mr. 3 to come to me. Remember not to let anyone know that they are coming." Hugo, who was familiar with Char, of course understood his deep meaning, so he couldn't help but take a deep breath, thinking that these two guys were really pitiful. After that, Buggy and Mr. 3 came to Char's room. Buggy and Mr. 3 were a little nervous, with cold sweat on their foreheads. They didn't dare to wipe it off, nor did they dare to breathe in the air, for fear of angering the moody poisonous dragon. Char, known as the poisonous dragon, pierced their bodies with sharp eyes, and said with a cold expression, "Do you know why I called you here?" Buggy and Mr. 3 shook their heads subconsciously, with confusion in their eyes. Did they do something wrong? The poisonous dragon grinned fiercely and said, "My Great Sha pirate group will never allow two people with two hearts. I think you understand what I am saying." Char's voice was not loud, but it made Buggy and Mr. 3 feel a chill in their hearts, and an ominous premonition instantly occupied their hearts. Buggy, who was as timid as a mouse, asked in a trembling voice, "My lord, did we do something wrong? Please forgive us." Mr. 3 also said quickly, Yes, is there some misunderstanding here?" "No misunderstanding. Please give me flowers, oh. Advertisement," Sha Ya said in a cold tone. The next moment, Sha Ya released a ferocious poisonous dragon from his body without any notice, and then rushed towards the two people with a roar. Mr. 3 and Buggy the clown had not yet reacted, and were tragically swallowed by the terrible poisonous dragon, and even in the end there was not even a remnant of the body. At this moment, a familiar system ringtone flashed in Zhang Ya's mind. Ding dee dee. System prompt. Kill Buggy the clown to get 5 million points. Ding dee dee. System prompt. Kill Buggy the clown to get 5 million points. Ding dee dee. System prompt. Kill Buggy the clown to get 5 million points. Immediately afterwards, several more system ringtones rang. Ding dee dee. System prompt. Kill Mr. 2 Mr. 3 to get 5 million points. 0. Ding dee dee. System prompt. Kill Mr. 2 Mr. 3 to get 5 million points. Ding dee dee. System prompt. Kill Mr. 2 Mr. 3 to get 5 million points. After hearing these familiar system ringtones, Char smiled brightly and got another 10 million points. Killing some celebrities is good. However, what disappointed Char was that these two people didn't know Haki at all. But on second thought, even Luffy doesn't know Haki now. What Haki can he learn with these two speed ratios? It is worth mentioning that these two people are demon fruit power. One is the chop chop fruit ability, and the other is the candle fruit ability. Although these two fruits are not very outstanding, it is not impossible to use them to reward subordinates to increase their loyalty and a little combat power, or to sell them on the black market to get a lot of wealth. Immediately afterwards, another good news system message sounded in his mind.
System prompt. Whether to use the ability of the simulation fruit, the ability to extract the clown buggy's fragmentation will cost 6 million points. System prompt. Whether to use the ability of the simulation fruit, the ability to extract the clown buggy's fragmentation will cost 6 million points. System prompt. Whether to use the ability of the simulation fruit, the ability to extract the clown buggy's fragmentation will cost 6 million points.
Hearing these system messages, Char was a little surprised. 149 Buddha no Sengoku. The points for killing Buggy the clown were only 5 million, but this chop chop fruit had much more points than Buggy. Is this the human not his fruit series? However, Char still extracted this chop chop fruit, bearing the pain in his heart and feeling silent. The next moment, a fruit with a broken image appeared in front of him without any warning. Then Char also extracted the candle fruit of Mr. 3, and the result was also the human not his fruit series, and a mere candle fruit also required 6 million points. After extracting 2 fruits, Shaw wanted to prepare for his long-prepared big plan. That is to improve his physical fitness and transform it into a body that can accommodate 2 fruits. Although the transformation requires 100 million points, he has killed many masters in Impel down and has obtained a lot of points. He initially estimated that he probably has more than 100 million points. System. How many points do I have now? The system immediately responded and gave a terrifying number that made Char dumbfounded. Ding ding ding, system prompt. You now have 250 million points. Char couldn't help swallowing his saliva, and said silently in his heart, System, I want to develop my 25 body capacity. Ding ding ding. System prompt, 100 million points required, okay. Okay. Char said silently in his heart, advertisement. Just when Char chose to confirm, a powerful energy torrent appeared in his body without any warning, and then kept running wildly in his body, like a firebull that only knew how to run rampant in his body, accompanied by the pain of tearing his body, almost making Char scream in pain. Char gritted his teeth and endured the unexpected pain, clenching his fists with trembling. Afterwards, the energy torrent gradually transformed his body successfully, and Char suddenly felt that the power in his body became stronger, with an indescribable sense of prosperity. It's really worthy of my spending 100 million points to get it. Char clenched his fists and clearly felt the amazing changes in his body. He couldn't help but sigh that it was more correct to spend 10 points to use this function. Char suddenly remembered something and asked in his heart. System, can I extract the poison fruit? The system did not answer his question directly, but, ding dee dee. System prompt. 10 million points are required to extract the poison fruit, okay. Char cancelled it of course. Although this poison fruit brought him some trouble in life, he sighed casually. It was all poisonous gas. The food he ate must be highly toxic, otherwise he would have no appetite at all. However, the combat power brought by the poison fruit is very strong. The powerful physical skills plus this poison fruit are simply invincible in close combat. As long as you are slightly touched by his venom, you will be seriously injured. If you don't treat it in time, it will cause further serious damage. So this is why Kizaru chose not to fight him in close combat when Char and Kizaru fought before. Plus, Char's Haki is almost invincible, whether it's Armament Haki, Observation Haki, or even Conqueror's Haki, they are all different in Japanese. Next, it is to take Kizaru's sparkling fruit in the next war. Kizaru's sparkling fruit is too tempting for him. If he can't beat the enemy, he can use the extreme speed brought by the sparkling fruit to run. In the process of running away, he can also drink the system's physical potion to quickly recover his physical strength. However, Kizaru is not so easy to defeat. In the next summit war, in addition to Kizaru, there are still 2 admirals sitting in, and even the existence of Sengoku of Buddha, and the terrible marine hero Garp. Advertisement: if Kizaru is in a difficult battle or in crisis, these marine masters will not let themselves take Kizaru's life so easily. Besides, Kizaru's own strength is good, and Char has seen it before. Various factors make the chance of killing Kizaru smaller and smaller. In other words, in this difficult situation now, it is necessary to take down Kizaru in a one-on-one situation when Whitebeard and others are involved in other marine masters. But in the summit war, Whitebeard can't hold out much. Chief. A sudden and sharp shout instantly interrupted Char's deep thinking. Char frowned and looked at the person who came, and said in a low voice, Hugo, what's the matter? The person who came was Hugo, who had just come not long ago. Hugo ran over panting and said, Marine attacked us. After a few seconds of silence, Char said, Didn't I ask you to leave here to avoid the enemy and not let the enemy discover our existence? I think these scum marines should consider the cause of Marineford and will not rashly waste more troops here. Hugo shook his head vigorously and said hoarsely, I really turned the bow and moved away from here as you said before, but these marines are not escorting Ace as we guessed. Hearing that these marine warships are not escorting Ace, it is obvious that there is an intention. Char frowned tightly, and a strong sense of uneasiness instantly occupied his heart. After a few breaths, Hugo adjusted his breathing, his face was solemn, and he said shockingly, Our people saw the famous Buddha Sengoku on the bow of a marine warship through the telescope. What did you say? 037 Char couldn't help but stand up in shock. According to the original work of One Piece, Buddha Sengoku could not appear here. Is this a mistake? After a brief thought, Char immediately ordered, Don't confront Buddha Sengoku now, retreat quickly. Hugo nodded, turned around and immediately passed on the order. After Hugo left, Char was left in the room pondering over the shocking changes. Why did Sengoku come here in person during this sensitive period? Did he know what he did in Impel Down, which made him furious and wanted to catch him regardless of naval headquarters? The more Char thought about it, the worse his mood became. No matter how he thought about it, Sengoku was looking for trouble with him. Meanwhile, in Impel Down IV-6, Smoker raised his 10 hands and said to Den Mushi with a serious face, Yes, Lord Sengoku, it has been confirmed that most of the prisoners in Impel Down have been released, except for Fire Fist Ace and Sea Knight Keeping. Are you sure it was all Char's doing? A slightly majestic voice came. Smoker said respectfully. Yes, the images transmitted through the camera are indeed Char's doing. But what is a bit strange is that Char only took some of the prisoners, and the rest of the prisoners were killed by him. 150 Sengoku arrives. Sengoku seemed a little surprised when he heard Smoker's words. Then do you know Char's purpose? Smoker replied that he didn't know. After that, a soft sigh came from the Den Mushi, and Sengoku seemed to be sighing about something. After a long time, Sengoku didn't say a word, and Smoker reminded him, Sengoku-sama. Ah, I'm fine, I'm just thinking about something. After a long time, Sengoku's voice came out slowly. Smoker said, if there's nothing, I'll turn off the Den Den Mushi first. Wait. Sengoku's voice sounded again. Smoker said, is there anything else? Just now I thought of something very important. Smoker, you check it for me right now. Is there a prisoner wearing red clothes in IV6? Advertisement. Smoker rolled his eyes and said seriously. No, the prisoners who died here were all wearing prisoner clothes. What's wrong? After hearing what Smoker said, Sengoku suddenly took a deep breath and said in a low voice. That's bad. An old man ran out. At the same time, on one of the ships of the Great Sha pirates, an old man in red clothes was standing quietly in front of the bow. He gave off a noble feeling, as if this old man was some kind of noble figure. The waves at this time were like a knife cutting his face. After that, he sighed and lamented. Are the old friends still alive? At this time, although the Great Sha pirates tried their best not to conflict with the Marine and ran as far as possible. Unfortunately, the speed of the Marine warship that Sengoku was riding was too amazing, and it caught up with them in just a moment. Hey, look, isn't that Sengoku, the teacher of Naval Headquarters? A prisoner who recognized Sengoku said in surprise. F*K, that Sengoku is here. Oh my god, why is he chasing us? Is he trying to catch us? Damn it, I just ran away from that damn place not long ago, and I'm caught again. I don't want it. But Sengoku is not in Marineford. What is he doing here? At the same time, Char, who had just walked out of the room, saw the Marine warship getting closer and closer to him. His face turned pale, and a hint of murderous intent flashed in his eyes. It was obvious that Sengoku was looking for trouble with him. Since the other party was prepared, Char would not show mercy and would not care about the next plan. Char's motto was, if you are prepared to attack him, don't blame him. If you dare to come, Sengoku, don't blame me for taking action. At the same time, the Blackbeard pirates, not far from the ship of the Great Sha pirates, obviously learned about the arrival of the special big man Sengoku of Buddha and became extremely vigilant. So Lafitte, who knew the news first, asked Blackbeard, Captain, what should we do? Should we help Ya fight Sengoku? At this time, Blackbeard was eating chicken legs in big mouthfuls, and said vaguely, it's none of our business, so let's not worry about it. Whatever Char can do, I wish he would die. There was a hint of hatred in his tone. After all, it was Char who destroyed his original plan in Impel down, which was enough to make Blackbeard hate him for the rest of his life. Lafitte frowned and said, if Sengoku knew we were here, he would definitely let us go to Marineford. After all, you are still nominally Shichibukai, and you are fully obliged to go to Marineford to fight Whitebeard. In this case, our plan is likely to go wrong. Lafitte's analysis was to the point. For various reasons, Blackbeard can only appear last, so Sengoku must not be found here. If Sengoku knew he was here, then at this time Blackbeard wanted to refuse Marineford. Yes, but Blackbeard's intentions might be exposed, and even be guarded by the amazing Sengoku. Thinking of this, Blackbeard's face became a little gloomy, throwing away the chicken leg, and said in a cold tone. Move the ship away, I don't want to go to Marineford so soon. Lafitte nodded, and the Blackbeard pirates and the Daxia pirates left without saying goodbye. The news of the Blackbeard pirates' ship transfer soon reached Char's ears. Char looked at Blackbeard's back with a sullen face, and said murderously. That Blackbeard, even though he was mentally prepared, he didn't want to accept this cruel fact. Advertisement. Hugo said, Chief, what should we do now? Should we take the initiative to attack? After Char pondered for a while, a hint of coldness flashed in his eyes, and he said, if Sengoku comes alone, I still have the confidence to defeat him head-on. If there are masters like Akainu Kizaru coming, I dare not say that there is a possibility of winning. Char paused, and continued in a calm tone. Pass the order, everyone is ready for battle. But no one can attack without my order, understand? Hugo nodded to show that he understood. In the past, Char would definitely not dare to take the initiative to fight a master like Sengoku, but now he really feels confident that he can defeat him. But the problem is that there are likely to be several powerful masters around the Marine commander like Sengoku, and then Char will have a headache. At the same time, on the Marine warship, Sengoku, wearing a Marine justice coat, had veins on his forehead and ordered at the top of his lungs. Fire, don't let these extremely evil prisoners escape. Sengoku knew very well that if such an incident of collective escape of impel-down criminals spread to all parts of the world, the reputation and prestige of Marine and world government would be greatly damaged. He, the Marine Marshal, Denuo Zhao, would not have a good life. This was also the fundamental reason why he came from Naval Headquarters Marineford, which was about to be attacked by Whitebeard, one of the Four Emperors, at all costs. The number of prisoners in front of him was as many as the stars in the sky, which made Sengoku more determined to kill Char. Killing Char could also improve morale and prepare for the next war. In this way, with the sound of artillery shells, the battle began silently. So the two sides started a fierce battle. Who fought desperately? In 10 hours, countless screams resounded through the sky. Although the prisoners fought on their own, they had strong fighting power and put Marine into a difficult battle. Hugo's command ability surprised Char. He didn't expect that commanding such a large-scale battle would be so smooth. Char couldn't help but admire Hugo and thought that his vision was really right.